Coffee and Hardcore listeners, welcome to Coffee and Hardcore Season 2, Episode 3. Take a chill pill, we're totally bugging. I'm Wiley Willis, coming at you from Chicago, Illinois with my trusty co-host,
Mick Cox from Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Yeah! This episode is great because Mick really gets to decompress and gets all the junk off his shoulders and his chest in this one. I think this has been one of my favorite talks on the podcast so far, along with Rich of Everybody's Coffee on Season 2, Episode 1, because I value raw realness, and Mick definitely delivers on that. Mick?
And we review our favorite coffee that we've been hanging out with and enjoying lately, and we also review some great EPs and albums from 2020.
That's right. We wanted to keep the rest short, sweet, so Mick would have more time to get into his thoughts and talks about what's on his mind and eating him up inside.
Yeah, so a little disclaimer, all right, just a little one. Wiley and I are both Christians, and we've been in this for a long time. We've been in the faith pretty much our whole life. I've been doing ministry for over 25 years. So during that time, we've grown and we've changed some of our thoughts, and I think it's healthy to question and think. It's healthy to do that. So you're going to get all that. So just a little disclaimer.
I totally agree. I don't want people to take the wrong things away from this talk at all. This conversation coming up. It's not about who's right or who's wrong, or even about what you and I believe in. These are merely questions that we've had and struggles that we deal with in our lives daily. It's about how we see the world today and how we see the lack of Christ and decency in everything around us. Maybe that's because we've lost sight of it all, of the whole story, or maybe it's for other reasons. I don't know. What do you think, Mick?
Well, there's a really old proverb. I don't know if it's that old, but there's a proverb that says, and I totally lost what it is. No. It basically goes like this. It's to question is okay. To doubt is even divine, because there's times when, we can look out and see through all kinds of different faith leaders and all that. You'll find times when they question things, that they even doubt things, and that is okay. It's healthy. So we hope that you can hear some of our thoughts and hear some of the things that we say and some of the things that we walk through. And honestly, we hope you enjoy this and that you join us with an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah, for sure. Please enter this with an open mind and an open heart. And last thing, even if you're a Christian or you're not a Christian, you're atheist, doesn't even matter to us. Struggles are real, struggles are in life, and we need to be honest with it. I appreciate Mick for his total transparency and honesty. We both decided to give the Mick talk, as we want to call it, the quote unquote Mick talk. We want to give it to you guys completely unedited. Like, seriously, I'm not going to let Mick edit any of this stuff. So with that being said, let's get in it. So Mick and I were supposed to have Eddie Sutton of the late 80s and early 90s hardcore band Leeway on the show. If you don't know them, find them and listen to them. We had it set up, and Eddie unfortunately had to cancel the day of the recording. Eddie was complaining that he was in a lot of pain and it was hard for him to breathe. Thinking he could possibly have a blood clot, or I don't know, maybe even talks of COVID. We don't know. We didn't know. But he went to the hospital that day and said he would keep me updated on his health and how he was feeling. Him and I texted back and forth, and he said he was going in for a biopsy, and he was going to be out sometime, and he'd get back to Mick and I with an update. I didn't hear from him Monday or Tuesday, and he wrote me saying he was out the next day because they had to put him under. So he was just knocked out. He couldn't get a hold of us. He couldn't let us know what was going on. They had him on all these drugs just to see what was going on with his results. And the following day, Jacob from Oak and Crow, who's putting out the Eddie Leeway coffee, and they've been in contact as well, wrote me saying that Eddie has to start chemotherapy. And in that moment, my heart just sank. I got a hold of Eddie and asked him if it was true, and he confirmed it and said he was going to have to start chemo right away. And he was going to spend time with his loved ones and his family and get some odds and ends things done in New York before he had to leave and go back. So I told him that we would push his coffee on the podcast, to not worry about coming on the podcast, that he should take care of all these things that are more important than this podcast. But I said that we would push his coffee, the Eddie Leeway Morning Wood, and we'd push his podcast, the Eddie Leeway podcast. And he thanked us.
Yeah, and if you don't know who Eddie Sutton is, he is the lead vocalist for Leeway and Leeway NYC, and he has done some of my favorite New York City hardcore, and one of the records, Born to Expire, which is killer, and then Desperate Measures, and a ton more. And then in 2019, he released the Tipping Point 7-inch record through Upstate Records that has 2 tracks on it, I'm Your Pusher and Message to a Man-Child, and released music videos for both of those songs. So we're going to drop I'm Your Pusher right now.
Right now. All right, dude, that's such a killer track. And if you look behind me, I know listeners can't look, but I got the signed Eddie Leeway Born to Expire album cover on my wall back there behind the Descendants flag. What? So Eddie's also got a podcast and a coffee that dropped, and I'll have Mick put a link to the podcast, the coffee, so you guys can help support him. He's also got a GoFundMe. I'm not sure if that'll still be going by the time this comes out. But that thing has it's like up to $7,000 or something crazy.
Yeah, it blew up. That's such a blessing. The hardcore community and scene is definitely giving back to one of their own, one of the godfathers and pioneers of hardcore for sure. Eddie also did a guest vocal track on a 2-minute Minor song called Choke on the Blood. So let's drop it before we get in with Mark. What do you say about that? All right. Also,
well, hold up real quick. Also, prayers and positive vibes sent to Eddie Leeway, our hardcore brother. So if you guys pray for him. If you don't, send him some positivity, meditate for him, send him some funds if you can, do whatever shit. makes you do what you do, gone done did. Here we go. Drop choke on the blood.
Fight tooth and nail for everything you can get, because big business and the government are not the friends of the working man.
Was in society faster in our regrets? Turn our backs on truth, cover eyes, defend our ears, these tongues grow silent. Dry up, and wither away. I am your shepherd, I'll be your guide. You're my sacrificial lamb of star. Choke on the blood, remorse and sleep. Follow the herd and out to sheep. That's not in your blood so deep. Put this baby on too deep. Ain't dead, it's practice for the great demise. It's time we rise, it's time we rise. Wake up the slain, wake up the defeated. No more playing dead. Choke on the blood, remorse and sleep. Follow the herd and out to sheep. That's not in your blood so deep. Put this baby on too deep. Look for the lights, follow the lies. Politicians hold you down every time. Media's pushing its agenda on you, spreading division instead of truth. It happens every time, every time. Money is one more than a human life. No more. We won't take it anymore.
All right, so welcome, Mark Sylvester, to Coffee and Hardcore. You're a dad, a hardcore punk supporter, and a volunteer firefighter.
Yes,
wow,
sir.
those three things right there is pretty rad, in my opinion.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm glad you think so.
Right? I mean, seriously, just the dad and a volunteer firefighter, that probably takes up most of your time to begin with.
What about the hardcore punk supporter?
Well, the
That's-
hardcore, right? That too. I mean, after your kids, that's where the rest of your money goes.
That's right.
He's
But
not
you-
lying.
But you recently got together with our good friend Jacob of Oak and Crow to do a coffee fundraiser for the fire department in Pennsylvania. So tell us a little bit about the fire department and how you got hooked up with Oak and Crow Coffee Company.
All right. So Liberty Fire Company is the second company of three in the town of Bangor. It was actually formed by 30 guys back in 1908. They were members of the Cider Club, which is a block away from our firehouse now. They banded together to protect the citizens that lived up on a hill where the rest of the rescue fire company members couldn't pull the hose cart. So as the town grew bigger, there were needs for, also more protection. And that's how Liberty came about.
Wow, that's old school style.
It is old school style.
That's still going.
It is. That one of our slogans is "We do it old school."
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. So these 30 guys, we're the Dirty 30 as they're known, and as we're still known as. It's an ongoing thing, and
so that's where you got the name for the coffee then.
Yes, the Dirty 30 Smoke Eaters, just because Smoke Eaters is an old name for firefighters before SCBAs were a thing. especially since I wanted I wanted a nice coffee that was dark and smoky. So I thought it would fit perfectly.
That's what Mick really likes. Is that the Void coffee? Is that what
I
he's
think
using?
it's very similar to it.
Oh, okay. So that the logo on there, it's like it's a dragon, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a Welsh dragon. Our town of Bangor was founded by a Welsh immigrant in I think it's 1760, somewhere around there, and we use the dragon since the dragon is on the Welsh flag.
Yeah.
And
dude,
Jacob,
I love that. I love that design.
Yeah, Jacob kind of liked it too because of his Welsh heritage. So he was kind of stoked about that as well.
That's cool. So how did you find out about Jacob? Like, how did you know to contact him about the fire department?
Obviously a fan of coffee and hardcore. So I listened to you guys religiously and saw, heard of all the good things he does for you guys. And obviously when, you did the Up the Pups and, that kind of stuff, I was like, right now in these times with COVID going on, trying to raise money is such a hard thing. Last year, our biggest fundraiser, which we make, several thousands of dollars at, was squashed. And, it hurts when you see that those numbers are not, rolling in for you. And I figured, what the hell? Everybody likes coffee. So let's see if he'll do something with us. And I sent him an email, and like the next day he responded, yeah, let's do this. He's like, what kind of coffee you want?
The funny thing about that is Jacob heard the episode that we did with Rich from Everybody's Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
He got a hold of me and he's like, man, that guy's making me look bad. He's doing all this charity stuff, and he's really helping out the community. He's like, I need to do more of that. So you reached him out like right when he was feeling like sentimental and like wanting to help. And so it was perfect.
I guess it's all the stars aligned, I suppose.
That's right. That's right. Jacob's a really good guy. He really does want to help.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he's been great to work with. I couldn't ask for anything more from the guy.
Yeah. He's a stand-up dude. And he got a hold of me. I think it was either yesterday or the day before, and was like, man, this coffee's selling really well. I didn't expect it to do this good.
Yeah, well, that's good. And we have quite a bit of support, which we're very thankful for. These people, the people in this community, rally behind us and, take care of us the way we take care of them. So it's a good thing. It's a good feeling.
For sure. That's awesome. That's great. And you also had your kids on the newest 2 Minute Miner, I guess, album, which you call it the cartoon covers. I don't know if it's an actual album, but yeah, that was cool. So Mick, he's the one where his kids recreated the photo of Minor Threat, the iconic photo on the porch.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really killer.
The funny part is,
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. That's not even my porch.
Oh no.
It's our neighbors up the street. And I was like, I want to recreate this photo, but it doesn't work with the way our house is set up. So I go up to him and I'm like, hey, Brendan, can I borrow your porch for a minute to do a photo shoot? And he looked at me like I had like 15 heads. And I had to like explain it to him. And he's like, yeah, cool. And he's like, whatever you need. And he just went back inside and we sat on his porch and took the photo. It was pretty cool.
It's like perfect.
Yeah, it's almost set up exactly with the lattice and everything on the side. And so it worked for us.
Well, he's like, hey, I got a fifth kid. He's like, what should, Mark writes me. He's like, I got a fifth kid. What should I do? I'm like, I don't know. Make the kid the skateboard. He's like, that's a great idea.
That's awesome.
So he had him holding the skateboard, and even on the tape on the deck, they put the 2 Minute Miner skull, which I thought was rad. So it's pretty awesome. And then I think I sent this to Mick, but two semi-professional and professional hockey players shared the photo of your kids on the porch.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Awesome. Really?
Connor, the one that's actually sitting on top of the soda crate. He's a goalie.
Oh, that's awesome.
So what team does he play for?
He plays at Lehigh Valley Phantoms, I think is his like the minor league team. I think that's what he plays for. I could be wrong. His mom and dad will probably strangle me if I'm wrong, but I know they play games at Lehigh Valley Phantoms Stadium. So they have several youth teams. I think he's on that one, but I could be wrong.
So Curtis Gabriel from the San Jose Sharks.
That's awesome.
Shared it. I don't know.
That's not minor league.
No,
that's big leagues.
This is the professional one. The minor.
Oh, wow.
Can you see the photo?
Yeah.
That he actually shared. I think
that's awesome.
Sharing it.
Very cool.
And then, no, that's the dude from the professional team. And then there was a minor league guy, Terrence James Brennan, South Jersey native, Philly proud. It looks like he plays for the Philly farm team.
Oh,
that's Lehigh Valley Phantoms.
Okay. What is?
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the team. That's the AHL team around here, and that's where Connor plays most of his games at. So,
so that's making sense. So he probably shared it first, and then the Sharks guy shared it.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. That's super awesome. You got professional hockey and a semi-professional hockey player sharing your kids' photos and hyping up the 2-Minute Minor album.
Right.
Look at that.
You can't beat that.
No, you can't. Your kids gave me free publicity to help suicide prevention.
That's awesome.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, sir.
So go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask. So let me ask you this question: since you're into punk rock and then you do the volunteer firefighter, how close is that? Like, when you think of punk rock and hardcore, the family vibe that's there in the community there, how close is that to the volunteer fire department? Because I know you guys, the volunteer firefighters, are super close.
Yeah. I've actually the firehouse was like my second home. My dad's been a volunteer firefighter for almost 50 years. So,
that's crazy. When you told me that, that's insane. Yeah.
Wherever dad went, almost 50 years. So wherever dad went, I went too.
Wow.
And it was, and it is, it is like a brotherhood, and it's a cool thing. There's guys that have been there, as long as my dad have been, but they're almost like, other fathers as opposed to brothers, but that is it's a nice family thing, that we have. We do things outside the firehouse, get-togethers and stuff like that, Christmas parties. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. My youngest son, I think, wants to be a firefighter. He goes nuts over fire trucks and everything else. So
do it.
I told him, I said, there's a ton of really cool volunteer fire departments here in Parkersburg. So
right. Definitely check out and see if they have a junior program for him to look into. I know we can start, I think juniors are able to come into the firehouse. I think they're like either 13 or 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And then they're, they learn everything except, they learn everything from the truck to tactics as doing what we do. And, by the time they're 18, they can apply to be a full-fledged active member and go from there.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, my wife's dad, I think we talked about this off air, but my wife's dad was a firefighter here in Chicago for 20 years and an EMT.
That's awesome.
So I have a lot of respect for that.
Right. Yes, it's an awesome thing. And, growing up in it, just kind of, when I got old enough, I just followed suit and went right along with it. We actually had 3 generations of our family in the fire company at one time. Until my nephew moved away, but we still have my dad and my brother and I in there now. So it's a family affair.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Well, Mark, thanks for being on the show. We got to cut it short, but we're going to put a link to the coffee from Oak and Crow, the Dirty 30 Fire Eater. And maybe we can put a link. Smoke eater. You don't want to eat fire. I guess you don't really want to eat smoke either.
No.
But let's put a link, Mick, also write this down. Let's put a link to the fire department.
Oh yeah. Can we do that? It'll be all right.
Yeah. Is that cool if we do that to send, if people want to send some money, some funds to help out?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll send you the link to it, to the Liberty website. And,
awesome.
And then, I think we actually have a link from there to the Oak and Crow website to purchase if they want.
So real quick, before we let you go, what do you guys usually do for benefits?
Our biggest fundraiser is we have a 3-day, what we call a clam bake or a carnival. Steamed clams, shrimp, food, stuff for the kids to do. I have a cigar tent there because I'm a big cigar smoker as well. And, it's just 3 days of people getting together with bands and food. And, so if 2 Minor wants to come and play
hell yeah,
in PA, it's usually the second week in July. So it's a big outside thing. So that's like our biggest thing.
Do you think they'd even be into us though?
Dude, you wouldn't even know. People would probably look, for a second, but they'd totally get into it after a
while. So is this like a block party thing, or is it at a park or what?
It's actually at the firehouse. Years and years ago, they used to shut the street down, and we'd have it like in front of the firehouse. But over the years, we've put a pavilion out back, and we use a side parking lot, so it's all held behind the firehouse.
How much land is the firehouse on?
Like an acre or so of land, so it's not huge. So when people get there, it's crowded. So that's you can see why something like that during COVID is definitely not feasible.
Yeah, well, that's cool that you had the idea about doing that coffee. Mine's on the way, so I should be getting it soon.
Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. I just chugged a cup and it's delicious.
Awesome.
All right, Mark, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for all you do for the hardcore scene and community. I appreciate you. You are a supporter, an advocate. You do a lot of things for it. And it's great to see people with your heart, man. So I appreciate you, brother. I
appreciate you guys too. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and a big shout out to Jacob and Oak and Crow.
Awesome. Man. Thanks for being on. Cool.
Talk to you later, brother.
All right. Take care, guys.
Later.
All right. So we've come to that part of the show where we do our coffee review, and it's going to be a little different this time because we're actually going to talk about our personal favorite coffee or personal coffee that we drink or have been drinking lately that we technically didn't get a bag to review. It's just kind of like what we,
what we're into.
Yeah, what we're into, what we dig. And so I'm going to go first. So I'm going to talk about basically the coffee that is my day in, day out coffee. The one that I like to drink the most. And it comes from the coffee shop that I work at. And I'm not trying to be give preference or anything. It's just I know the folks who own the place, and I do work for them some. But even before I worked for them, I still went there and drank their coffee. But they actually get their coffee from a company called Crimson Cup. Now, the cool thing about Crimson Cup is they actually help people start coffee shops. Like, that's been their thing. And like 5 or 6 years ago, I was in a coffee shop somewhere in the upper part of Ohio. My wife and I walked in. It was before we were getting ready to go to some, I don't know if it was a show or to go speak somewhere. I can't remember. But we went in this little coffee shop, and they had Crimson Cup coffee. And it was delicious. And so years later, these folks opened Stoked Coffee in Marietta, Ohio, and Parkersburg, West Virginia, and they started using that coffee. And I was like, man, this is going to be good. But their signature blend that they use, and that's what they base all of their drinks that they have in the shop, is Armando's. And I love saying Armando.
Armando's.
But Armando's blend it's a medium roast. It's got a nice.
Wait, hold up. Back it up.
Yeah. Yes.
Medium roast.
It is. It's a medium roast, and I dig it quite a bit. And normally, if I'm in the shop and I'm getting coffee, what I normally do is I get one of their signature drinks. They have this thing called the Stoked Mocha, and then I get an extra shot. And so they add an extra shot of Armando's to it. And so it makes it super awesome. But at home, when I'm making it, so you can go there and you can buy the beans there. I get Armando's blend, and it's got a nice nutty undertone. It's not too much, because sometimes if something's too nutty, it kind of becomes real bitter. And this is not bitter at all. It's real medium. It's real smooth. And it just tastes great, man. And it's really, honestly, if I'm not drinking something for the show, or I'm not drinking Oak and Crow, like if I run out of Oak and Crow, what normally goes in my cup is Armando's blend. It really is that good. I love it. And another thing that I really like about this Crimson Cup Crimson Cup Coffee Company is that, yes, the company. Yes, you got to add the other C. What's awesome about them is they do all this work with the farmers, with the beans, and then they do a lot of work with cancer research and helping out
cool.
kids, cancer patients that, with fundraising and things like that. And, they get their beans from Central America, Indonesia, and then also Africa. And they're, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Rich. Like they actually work with the farmers. They help out with, the land and everything, making sure everybody's taken care of, and workers, wages and things like that. So it's a really awesome company. And also they go out of their way to not only sell their coffee, but help people who want to start their own coffee company or their own coffee business or their own shop, supply them with the coffee, supply them with the, all the things that they'll need to make the coffee in their shop. And then they'll actually send people down to train baristas. So it's a really awesome company. And I know that the folks that own the shop that I get it from, Stoked, like they do a ton. They like Crimson Cup totally encourages the shops that they work with to do work in the community. So, the shop, that I hang out at and do stuff for, Stoked, they do a lot of stuff with foster families and adoption and things like that. So it's pretty cool. It's like a very community oriented company. So, and their coffee's killer. Like it's not just that they do this stuff, but the coffee's killer too. So I like it. Armando's blend from Crimson Cup Coffee in Ohio. So it's kind of local to me too. So,
hey, I was gonna say, what is up? This is a good thing, but what is up with all these coffee companies like rising up and doing great things for the community? Like it reminds me of the hardcore scene.
It does. You know what I think it is, and maybe I might be wrong, but what I think it is a lot of folks. I see a lot of people from the 90s that was involved in hardcore and punk. Mm-hmm. I see them involved a lot in roasting coffee or starting coffee shops.
We've noticed that in interviewing people
quite a bit. And even the brutality guys, those are guys from like the metal scene. Yeah. So it's like really interesting. We're seeing that. And then when you start talking to them, their heart's automatically like, oh yeah, we help here and we help, so it's just really cool to see that. I mean, I'm thinking of almost out of all the coffee that we've reviewed since we started this thing, all of them, as far as interviews go, every single one of them have had some aspect where they do some sort of work in the community. Like there's not one.
Yeah. And I think all of them have a background in hardcore and punk too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if like that, do we accidentally do that? Like we seek them out because of that? Or I don't think so, because
I don't think so.
Yeah. There's some we did, like British City Coffee. We didn't know that dude was into punk.
No, not at all. No, not at all.
We didn't know that the brutality, I mean, kind of with the name brutality, you can kind of figure that one out, but
no, when they popped up and then we started asking them about bands and they're dropping all these metal bands that even I hadn't heard it at some of that stuff. And I was like, holy cow. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're big in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So what you got?
Cool. My pick to plug is Dark Matter from here in Chicago, Illinois. Ooh. Dark Matter Teenagers from Mars limited run, released October 2020. Okay, so check this out. The packaging looks like an old Topps Mars Attacks kind of comic cover. Libby said it gave her a Blaster the Rocket Boy / man vibe.
It's a vampire, she's a vampire, it's a vampire, she's a vampire.
So I knew by saying that you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's got vanilla bean, orange marmalade, dates. What? It has such a smooth and bold yet satisfying taste. This coffee, personally, for me, no joke, compares to Oak and Crow Road Crew. Bum, bum, bum.
Ooh.
I actually ordered 2 more bags of it online. Okay. And this was in December. I ordered it. It was the last 2 that I could find. I had to order it like through a third-party shop. I couldn't get it through. Yeah. But it was actually here in Chicago that they had it, and they delivered it to my door and dropped it off while I was at work. But this oh my gosh, this coffee is so good. What is it now? So this is, we record everything a month. It's what, the end of February? We're going to release this episode in March.
March, right.
I just last Sunday. So what, it's Thursday now.
Yeah.
I saved enough so I could have my last cup of Teenagers from Mars coffee when I woke up on a Sunday, because I didn't have to work. So think about that. I got it in December and I saved it till February, the end of February.
Nice.
And it came out in October. That's how much I loved it. I saved enough for a pot of coffee months later.
So is this something that they do every October?
If we're being honest, I don't know. I don't really know a lot about dark matter, because I always thought it was kind of like a hipstery, kind of like hippie, kind of, I don't know, weird coffee place, So like their imagery usually kind of puts me off a little bit.
Right.
Like it's like kind of like stonery, hipstery kind of stuff, and I'm not really into that kind of look at all. And so I just kind of overlooked it. But Libby actually picked this up for me. And she's like, yeah, it was on sale in the store because it came out in October and it's November, and I think they're trying to get rid of it. And I was like, oh, this is a really cool, like, this coffee bag looked super cool. And awesome. I haven't seen one that looked that cool. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. But right when she got it for me, opened it up, smelled amazing. So put it in the grinder, made the coffee, took the first sip, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is comparable to Road Crew. Like, this coffee was a step. This coffee stepped it up. But whoever did the artwork for this bag, it really blew me away. And like I said, I'm not usually a huge fan of their kind of, I don't know, their imagery reminds me of like Parliament Funkadelic. Met like at what's that hippie, like, hipster festival called Burning Man,
kind of like the Burning Man feel.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm just not into it. It's not my thing. Yeah, so that coffee is my jam right now. That's what I'm that's what I'm on. So I went to find more online, couldn't find any more after I ordered those 2 bags. So I ended up ordering 2 more bags of the Up the Pups Oak and Crow coffee. Because I was like, well, there goes one of my favorite coffees. I can't get it now because it's seasonal, right?
Yeah.
So Libby randomly brings home this coffee for me from Oak and Crow, like, I don't know, since she got it for me. So a few months later after that. It's called Tamba, and it's from Dark Matter. What's that?
Was it from Oak and Crow?
No, it's from Dark Matter.
Oh, okay. You said Oak and Crow.
Yeah. I said I couldn't find any more Dark Matter Teenagers from Mars coffee, so I went on the Oak and Crow and ordered more coffee.
Oh, okay. Now I get
ordered 2 more bags of Up the Pups because I was like, well, oh yeah, your wife just walked by.
You scared me. I was like,
I came in there and stood for a couple minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, what?
I was looking out for
Oh, she was looking for cats.
No worries.
We have a ton of stray cats.
I like looking for cats. What? You have a bunch of stray cats?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. You name them? I mean, do you kick them out when you find them in your house?
Well, let's just say Audrey and Lindsay names them all, and she feeds them.
Does he want to know all the names?
Yes, come here and tell them all the names. Come here.
Tell me all the names.
Tell them all the names. Here we go.
Headphones.
You need the headphones.
Yeah.
All right, here you
It's
go.
weird talking to somebody I can't hear.
Here's the headphones. Tell us all the names.
Hello.
Okay, so there's Prancy Nancy,
Prancy Nancy.
Bear Claw,
Bear Claw.
Godzilla,
Godzilla.
and let's see who else. Meatball,
Meatball.
Leroy Jenkins.
Is that a little plumpy cat? A cute little plumpy cat?
He's a very, very fat black cat. And when I saw him for the first time, he was running from the porch to the barn, and he like wobbled,
like
and it. Yes, that's exactly what it looked like. Okay, wait. Godzilla, Egg, Marigold.
Back up. You can't just drop a name like Egg on me. Do not tell me the backstory to that name.
Audrey named that one.
Okay.
And it's all white and it's fat. And so it looked like an oval, like an egg.
Yeah.
So normally she has really weird, like boring names like this. One cat she named Orangey because it's orange.
Yeah.
But I renamed it to Orange Julius Pepperwood.
How you guys doing? I'm Julius Pepperwood.
Not now.
I'm an ex-cop, ex-Marine. I'm here to learn how to write short fiction.
Orange Julius Pepperwood?
Yeah, Julius Pepperwood. Do you watch New Girl?
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
He doesn't watch New Girl.
I know.
Okay, well, it's from that. Okay, wait. Orange Julius Pepperwood, Marigold, Darcy.
What? You have this many stray cats in your house?
Like, well, not in our house. They're all outside.
Oh. Well, he said you were looking for cats. And you're in like his den. Are there cats in the den?
There's a glass door over there.
So they're coming through the glass door? I don't get it.
They were here when we moved in.
Oh.
And like the first night that we came and my friend and I were cleaning, two of them just like were outside in the front. And so they're
like, this is our house.
Yeah. They just come at random. There's one that comes, Prancy Nancy comes in the morning at like 8 or 9. And she's so little and she's just like a bunch of different colors. And I feel bad. And I'm trying to talk Mick into letting me bring her in.
Not going to happen.
He says it's not going to happen. I know.
Hashtag bring in Prancy Nancy.
Hashtag bring in Prancy Nancy.
Not happening.
Hashtag bring her in.
Did I get them all?
Yes, that's all of them.
Are you sure?
That's all 9 of them.
Okay, so 9. Oh, no, there's Voldemort.
Oh,
he's the mean
You're
cat.
not allowed to say his name, though.
Well, I'm not scared.
Okay.
I'm not a muggle.
As long as you're not scared.
not a muggle, so I'm not scared. But yeah, that's all.
Diagonilly. You say diagonilly?
Diagonally. But I only feed a couple of them because I'm not paying that much in cat food. So
I don't know. Is that nice?
Only
a cut white. I mean, so like you put out a bowl and they come and get it. It's like
I only put food out when they're yes. I only put it out when they're out there. Otherwise, I'm afraid they're gonna like pee all over the porch and stuff.
They're gonna bring like the whole town of cats.
Yes, that's literally what's happened. I was out there one time a couple weeks ago, and like 5 of them were out there with me.
That's awesome.
They just show up.
You have a cat sanctuary, Mick.
It's a cat sanctuary.
Hashtag Mick's cat sanctuary.
Hashtag Mick's sanctuary.
No.
Cat sanctuary.
No.
Okay, I'll let you get back to work.
Prancy Nancy.
Bring in Prancy Nancy.
No.
I'm trying so hard.
No.
We have a whole sunroom that we haven't done anything with, and it would be perfect to bring in a little cat.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it all planned out.
Yep.
All right. Okay, bye.
I'm with you on this one.
He's with me. I've got more backup. You're the only one that's like, no.
Yeah.
We're gonna run a campaign, a GoFundMe campaign for
We're gonna do a
Nancy.
GoFundMe.
Bring in Prancy Nancy,
boy.
just so you guys can keep up on your cat food bill.
Yes. Well, so far it's been pretty cheap. We just buy them the cheap stuff.
Yes.
The dollar store cat mix, meow mix.
I'm trying to think. No, we actually got the Kroger brand. It was $2.99.
Ooh.
Yeah.
For a 40-pound bag.
Actually, $3.
I wish. No. All right. I just took over with my cat stories.
You did.
Hey, you've been my favorite guest so far.
I'm his favorite guest so far.
All right.
You better not cut this.
Yeah, don't cut
He's
this
gonna
out.
cut this.
All right,
So
we'll leave
people
it
Wait,
out.
I didn't know you guys. I didn't know you guys were still doing it.
Still recording.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
We're finishing up the coffee review. We went
I
from
thought you were
coffees
done.
into.
You started talking to me, so I assumed you were done.
I think
Okay.
it's great.
All right. Well,
If he cuts this, I'm gonna be mad. So just so you know.
he said if you cut it, he's going to be mad.
I won't cut it. I'll leave it in.
Yeah. Hashtag bring in Prancy Nancy.
Hashtag bring in Prancy Nancy. Prancy Nancy forever. Okay.
T-shirts.
Oh my god, t-shirts.
Oh God. Give me the headphones.
I just said give me the
This is
headphones.
going too far.
There's
going
never gone too far.
Way too far.
Hashtag gone
Could
too
you-
far.
Could you imagine if Wiley and I did this like on a normal basis, how far it would go?
It would go far.
It would go really
Your
far.
brains would. Your
No
the way
one
your
would edit
brains
it
work.
for
It would
us.
go.
And nobody could edit it.
Nope.
But
That's
back
pretty
to coffee.
crazy. All right.
So I've been on this Tamba kick since Libby brought it home for me, right? From Dark Matter Coffee. I highly recommend it. We went to the store and we bought 2 more bags
Oh my goodness.
because it's cheaper it's like 15, 16 bucks in the store, but if you get online, it's 22. But yeah, so altogether I've had 4 bags of this stuff. I still got 2. Yeah. I'm going to send you a bag. Okay.
All right. Okay.
It's from Guatemala. It has notes of black tea, blood orange,
Ooh.
and molasses.
Ooh, that sounds good.
And this is okay. The Teenager from Mars was like my favorite. This is a pinch up.
It's almost there.
Yeah, I would say that this is 100% on par. Right here, line to line, nose to nose, teeth to teeth, with Road Crew Oak and Crow.
Oh man.
Bum bum bum.
That's
Celebrity
dangerous talk
death
right
match. No man, I'm gonna send this to you. You're gonna be like, this is so good.
All right. Awesome.
It's really good.
Awesome.
That's
See, now-
that's
yours?
mine. So
Yeah. So Lindsay today, I'm getting in the car. We just went to a store and came in, and she's on her phone. She goes, "Yeah, I just spent some money." I'm like, "What?" and she found that one of her favorite bands is Coheed and Cambria, and they just released their coffee. And so, like at one point, there's part of me that's intrigued. Like I'm like, yeah, we should order some of that. And then there's other part of me is like, what if we order it and it's just crap?
well, how much is it?
It's not bad. It's only I think it's 18
Yeah, it's not
for
terrible.
like a regular size. I think it's like a little more than 12 ounces.
Yeah.
I mean for, I immediately said, go and see how much Oak and Crow charges for the same size
18.
bag. Yeah. And it was $2 more than what Oak and
Well,
Crow does. And
it depends. If they do a specialty like band, it's 18.
right. So it was around the same thing. So,
But it's 16 for if you get a normal Oak and Crow.
right. Yeah. So it
So
wasn't
maybe
bad.
so I talked about having the girls come on and hosting the podcast. Yeah, that would be too much. But what if we had them come on and do a coffee review of their favorite? Like, what if Lindsay did what if Lindsay did a Coheed and Cambria coffee review and I had Libby on?
That'd be cool.
I'd have to talk her into it though. She's kind of shy. But if I had her on to talk about her favorite coffee, which
that'd be cool.
I know what hers is.
That'd be awesome. And
She
then
she likes the super dark that I sent you, the Just coffee.
oh yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's her
Lindsay
favorite.
really digs the Oak and Crow Into the Void, but she wants to try Road Crew really bad. So
Road Crew.
yeah, because I think I got
That's
right
my
now.
favorite.
Right now from Oak and Crow, I have the Into the Void, which I haven't broken open yet. It's still there, but I did do the Eddie Leeway coffee.
Yeah.
And
Morningwood.
yeah, it's good.
Let's
Really
put a
good.
link to the Eddie Leeway Morningwood coffee. Let's put
All
a
right.
link to the Smoke Eater.
Okay.
And let's put a link to the Coffee and Hardcore Suicide Prevention. When this
Okay.
drops, that'll be going on for like a month, and we're keeping that going.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool.
We're out.
I'm from Chicago. Thin crust pizza? No, thank you. I'm from Chicago.
Coffee and hardcore album review in your face, sucker! Boom! All right, we're doing Mick's first pick here. The artist is Perfect World. The album is War Culture. Came out September 2020. 13 songs. Tell us what you think of it, Mick. It's your pick.
It's my pick. All right. So I'm going to give you my pros first. My pros are that this album, production-wise, for a hardcore album, is amazing. The guitar tones, drum, bass, all of it, even the vocals, the way they're mixed, it has a huge sound. The second song, Lariat, has a breakdown in it that makes me want to spin kick my grandma in the face.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I found this band probably maybe a couple weeks ago, and through a random Spotify, like this, if you like this band, try this band. It made me feel like the old school. Do you remember back in like when you went to this Christian bookstore and they had the poster on the wall and it said, if you like Nirvana, for fans of Nirvana, you'll like Deliverance, which made no sense whatsoever. But Spotify does a pretty good job of, I think, at least data mining what you listen to and finding other stuff. But this one came up and I checked it out and I dug it. I played Lariat in here. There got in our new house. There's like whoever owned this house before put pretty rad speakers in the ceiling. And so I was back here working on stuff and played this album, and Lariat came on, and my kids were circle pitting in the back here, and my wife was painting this wall over here, and it was just like everybody was like really into it, tons of energy. But Lariat was a killer song, and King of the Night was another good song. And honestly, heavy, lots of breakdowns. And this is the con. The con is that it just kind of sounded like the same thing over and over again. Now, it's a good same thing over and over again, but the production wise for me saved it. And so that's why I was like, man, I gotta send this and see if Wiley has heard of this and maybe we could throw this down, because I dig it. I'd never heard of the band before, and it makes me feel like there's some Strife influence, but some newer, kind of the newer hardcore stuff that's kind of out there now. When I first heard it, it kind of had that one the first time, like when I heard Mind Force, and I was like, oh my God, yes, please more. I was kind of like that in the first 3 or 4 songs, but it didn't carry it quite the same way that Mind Force did. But still, I dug it quite a bit. I was into it.
How many tracks was that Mind Force, though? It wasn't as many, was it?
Yeah, the Mind Force wasn't as many. Now, the first album, Excalibur, has have more songs than this one. And I totally, and I dig that whole album straight through. To me, I if they would have released this album as like maybe a 5-song EP,
yeah,
I probably would have been blown. I probably like the whole
I agree
thing.
on that.
Yeah.
I agree. So I like this album, but I've never heard of this band, so it's always a treat when Mick sends me some new music. And especially new music that is good and hard hitting. Great guitar riffs, heavy driving drums, the vocals fit perfectly. I'd recommend this album to people. I really would. I would. But I do agree with you with that 5-song thing. I'm going to say something unpopular, yet I feel like I need to. The songs are great and everything is put together very well. I just feel that this album for me personally will get lost. There's just so much great hardcore albums out there being released today that nothing really makes it stand out among the rest of these great releases, unfortunately. Yet, like you said, it's a solid record. Production's great. It's recorded really well. Yes, I'd recommend it to people. I just don't think it'll be on my rotation. And I honestly, sadly, don't think it'll stand the test of time. Something about it doesn't feel 100%. It doesn't feel 100% authentic, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
I guess it sounds like a mix of what's coming out nowadays, and just doesn't stand alone for me. But with that being said, it's super well done, super well produced. All the songs, yes, they kind of blend together for me. Yet that track, My Time Runs Out, stands apart because of that killer bass intro. And the pounding drums, like that bass and that drums when they come in, I'm like, yes, it's such a good song. Like if they would have ended with that and did 5 songs, or even I would say 5. If this would have been a 5-song EP and ending with My Time Runs Out, would have been a perfect. I would have wanted more.
I agree. Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's too long for what it is.
Yeah. It's too long, and it's almost. This is going to be a weird thing to say, but it's almost too perfect. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's almost
yeah.
It's almost like too perfect. Like the production, the way it's put together, it's almost too perfect. That makes you go, because
maybe that's why it blends together for me.
I think so, and because when you said that, I was like, yeah, he's right. It's like it's almost. I don't want to say it's too good to be true, but it's almost like it. I don't know. In hardcore, you almost want that edge. You almost want that.
Yeah, like there's not enough grit.
Yeah, that's it. And so when it's like 12 songs, it's like, okay, 5 songs, you would have been like, holy cow, what is going on?
I agree. But one thing that I really like about hardcore is that grit and like that. I don't know, the drive, and I felt like, it was kind of mass produced and overproduced. Yeah. But anyways, that's the thing is I don't want people to think that we don't like this, because we do.
No, we do.
Like it sounds like we're ragging the hell out of this record, but like I said, listen to the first 5 songs and you'll have a good time.
Yeah.
So let's drop My Time Runs Out, because that's my pick right now.
Something I will never understand is why I'm losing my mind and I'm
We're back with my pick, Wiley's pick. The band is called Buggin. The EP is called Buggin' Out. It's 5 tracks. It was released April 2020. Yeah, right? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Buggin is from here in Chicago. They played my buddy's wood shop in the fall of 2019, and we had that demo on repeat for like 3 months in the t-shirt printing shop that we both work at. And they were called Buggin' Out back then. They changed their name. I can only speculate, but I think they changed their name because there's another band called Buggin' Out. And I'm sure when they put their songs on Spotify, it like went into their account, and I'm sure Buggin' Out was like, yo, what the hell? We didn't come out with these songs. And so they probably had to change the name to Buggin'. But I like both. I actually kind of like Buggin' better.
I do too. I like Buggin' better.
But, you know, besides the point, all these songs kick hard and the guitar riffs are nasty and they just make you shake your head in approval. You know what I'm saying? Like when you put it on, you're just like, yes.
Yes.
The vocals kick as hard like a kick in the face from a horse or a donkey. And I'm serious, man. This shit is interesting and it's original sounding with the taste of great melody and chopping hard hitting tempos and riffs. So let's play my favorite track off the EP, My Rules. When that guitar kicks in, dude, seriously, you're all going to fall in love with this band. Play it right now.
All right, here we go.
We're back.
Oh, no, that's seriously like that's when you like that's your favorite song. That's my favorite song on this album. I love the bass tone on this album. It's gritty. It's dirty. It's I don't know. It's and when you sent me this, because sometimes when I hear something, I'm like, okay, I want to know what they look like. I want to know is there any live videos of them, and they're just fun. Like if you go and look at their merch, it's fun. It's just cartoon characters of them.
I bought that shirt.
Did you buy that shirt? Oh, yeah. it's just awesome. Like they're just a fun band. I would love to see them live. I think the singer is great. I don't know. It just looks like they're packed full of energy. I like the song. Oh, now see, I can't even read. Oh yeah, I can. Dead to Me. I like that song a lot. I like they have a 2-song EP that just came out, right?
Yeah.
I Flexi.
I actually want to talk about that.
Okay. Well, go ahead and talk about it.
Well, that's why I bought the shirt. Cause I went to buy the record. I was like super stoked on this record. Right. But I can't stand Flexis, man.
Oh,
I give them away when I get them. I cannot stand them. And so I was like, I am not buying a Flexi. I want to support this band, so I bought their shirt. But yeah, I love the EP. It's the 2 songs, Flexi, the record titled Brain Freeze.
Yep.
And that's the main song on there. And then they did a Beastie Boys cover.
Right.
And you said that's your favorite Beastie Boys song.
It is my favorite Beastie Boys song, and the bass riff is the bass riff that I play every single time I grab a bass. Every time I pick it up, I play I play it all the time. Love it. Gratitude is yes. One of the first band I was ever in is Zayo. That was the first band I was ever in. But then when I started making friends in the scene and stuff, I was actually in another band, and we actually covered that song because I loved playing that bass riff so much. And they were like, we're just going to do this song. And so we played it. Every time we played live, we played that song live. I can't even remember the name of that band, but I remember playing that song. Oh yeah, they did an awesome job. And they put a guitar solo in it that rips.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, I dig it.
Do you think we could play Brain Freeze, the main track off that?
Oh yeah, totally. Let's play it.
Let's drop it right now.
Boom.
Tell me what you thought of this record yet?
Did I tell you? Yeah, I did. I said I dug it, liked it quite a bit, loved the bass tone, and I thought they were full of energy. Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on. We're moving on to your next pick, which is pick. Mind's Eye. It's an EP called True Blue, 4 songs, released December 2020. Tell us what you think. Go. Actually, first, I love that you sent this to me.
Yes, because here's the fun. Let's tell the story about me sending this band to you. All right.
Okay. Yes.
So I find this band, and I had been listening to it for a little while, and for some reason, because Lindsay, my wife, really loves grunge music from the 90s. She loves Nirvana. She loves Alice in Chains, all this stuff, and she has a playlist. And every once in a while, when she cooks or does anything, she plays that playlist sometimes. And when I turn the first song on, True Blue, and then it goes into that next track, the guitar tone and there's some background stuff that reminds. It doesn't sound like Alice in Chains. It doesn't, but it just has that grunge kind of like different tone. And I was like, this is unique. This is different. And then the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. And then I was like, do I like this or do I not like this? And then the more I listened to it, I was like, I really like this. So then I was like, who's somebody else that I can send this band to get their honest opinion about? So I sent it to you and I said, have you heard of these guys? They kind of remind me of a mix between hardcore and Alice in Chains. And you immediately shot it down because you're like, I hate Alice in Chains. I don't want to hear anything.
I texted you back, pass.
Yes, that was it. You're like, pass. I don't want to. And I was like, I said, it's just different. It's not Alice in Chainsy. It's just, it reminds me of that. It's the tone. It's all that. But that song True Blue is just so different. It reminds me.
What did I write you back?
You said that you were so glad that I sent that band to you because you didn't quit listening to it. You're listening to it. You kept listening to it over and over again.
Yeah, man.
And it's different. It's like I don't even know how to describe it. You just have to check it out for yourself because it sounds like, to me, it's like a mixture between like old stuff like Mean Season and Snapcase. And then there's whoever the one guitar player is has definitely in some time in his life really been into like 90s alternative like grunge stuff because there's like some guitar tone and there's like even some like there's a couple solos that are just like this guy listens to stuff that more than just hardcore stuff. It's just a great mix. And then the power behind the vocals, what he does is just different. It's just not, they definitely stand out in a group of people. Like if there was a show and these guys were on the bill, they would definitely stand out. They would, in a way that I'd go, I want to go check those guys out. I'm going to go buy the CD record. I want to know more about them.
So what's your favorite track?
My favorite track is True Blue.
No. You got to pick a different one. I
have to pick a different one? All right. Well, then I do have one written down. If I can read what my Brainwaves is the other one that I like.
Brainwaves. Drop that now.
Boom.
Stole my favorite song. I'm just kidding. So I, again, am so happy that you wanted to review this album because this is something new and it's so creative. I love this so much. It like you said, it has times where it gives off a 90s alternative feel, then jumps into a powerful guitar riff. I absolutely love the vocals. It's different and it's perfect for the music. It couldn't be any more perfect. This EP is a breath of fresh air. I love every single track. Yet I think you should play True Blue because it really captures that 90s alternative feel and into that unstoppable hardcore bliss. So let's drop True Blue now. All right. Well, now you understand why I had you pick a different track. Because
I did.
That was in my notes, man. All right. Well, we're moving on. My pick, band Vanguard, EP, Rage of Deliverance. 6 songs, November 2020 this was released.
Nice.
So the opening track, To Suffer, has the clip from Philip Wollen. Is that how I say it? Philip
I think
Wollen?
so. I think that's it. Yep.
And his speech, animals should be off the menu. Okay, look, I don't eat meat, and that clip made me want to do more and help in any way that I could. I later went and looked up Philip Wollen's full speech, and it really touched my heart and brought raw and real facts to light. He's talking out against factory farming, not Uncle Joe's farm where he loves and has named all of the animals and treats them with the utmost respect. He's talking about the factory farming that is big business farming that is in bed with politicians and the health industry to keep us sick, tired, and so they can keep us drugged up at prices that we are indebted to. It's a vicious cycle, and we all pay for it as a community in the world. The animals pay with their lives, and we pay out of pocket with our health and by destroying this planet for the future generations. Big business, factory farming, and politicians who make money from this circle of death don't want you to think it's a big deal and spend a lot of money. And they don't want you to think it's a big deal, and they also spend a lot of money on making sure that we don't find out how deep the truth goes. So let's drop the track To Suffer with Philip Wollen's speech clip now.
King Lear, late at night on the cliffs, asks the blind Earl of Gloucester, "How do you see the world?" And the blind man Gloucester replies, "I see it feelingly. And shouldn't we all? Animals must be off the menu because tonight they are screaming in terror in the slaughterhouses, in crates and in cages. Vile, ignoble gulags of despair." You see, I heard the screams of my dying father as his body was ravaged by the cancer that killed him. And I realized I'd heard those screams before. In the slaughterhouse, their eyes stabbed out and their tendons slashed, on the cattle ships to the Middle East, and the dying mother wail as a harpoon explodes in her brain as she calls out to her calf. Their cries were the cries of my father. And I discovered that when we suffer as equals. And in their capacity to suffer, a dog is a pig, is a bear, is a boy.
Welcome back. I hope that really touched you because it really touched me. And I just got to say that I love this band's music and message. They are passionate and it shows. I approve of this message personally because I truly think it's an important topic. Almost. It just seems like every song is about being vegan and animal rights, which I don't mind that, if we're being honest, because I'm for it. I'm for animal rights. I'm for this subject. But I got to be honest with you. I got to be real. It gets stale. I get it. I get the point. I agree with the point fully. I just think if it was in like 2 songs, maybe 3, it'd be more powerful. The message gets watered down after a full EP about it. Maybe that was the point, because maybe they wanted to make a whole EP about it. But I think if they make EPs in the future and it stays on that subject, I think they might lose my interest. I just hope every release isn't about the same topic, and I hope they reach out to different and important topics, because there's so many more important things that they can sing about, with also adding that in there and having that part of their topic list. Yet the music is so heavy and the words are so passionate and real that this still is an A+ release for me. And I had to add it to my vinyl collection, and I bought it on vinyl. And I think this might be one of my records of 2020 that I didn't know about, that I think is one of my favorites musically. And lyrically to a point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like I stand behind everything they sing about. It's just after, listening to it, I'm like, okay, I get it. And I don't want to water down what they're saying.
Right.
But yet I do feel like they did by only singing about that.
Right. Well, I think that's the whole purpose behind why they started the band and why they are a band. I think that's going to be their message going forward from everything that because
so that's the only thing they're going to sing about?
I believe so. Because the guy, I think it's the drummer for Bitter Truth, that's how I found out about them. Because I heard this album back in July. I think it's when it came out, June or July, and loved it. Really dug it. Because I'm a huge Earth Crisis fan. I love Earth Crisis. Firestorm, All Out War, those two albums were huge. And then when Destroy the Machines came out, I mean, when Zayo recorded Splinter Shards, we listened to Destroy the Machines all the way to Maryland. When we were in Maryland, I found a room that was like separate from everybody else because I just wanted to play bass, and I put that CD in the CD player and just sat there and played along with it just to kind of get my head in the frame to even like do Splinter Shards. And so that Earth Crisis was a big deal to me back in the day. I really dug into that. And so when I heard this, I was like, man, this is cool. And have you heard Eco Strike?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know.
Yeah, their first album, man, is so good. There's just something about vegan straight edge bands that I've always been drawn to, and I'm not vegan at all. But something about that's always drawn me to them. I think it's the passion behind their stuff. So when this album came out, I dug it. I really like you. I like the song To Suffer. I like Defeatist. I like that song. I even like the title Defeatist. And the raw passion behind it. This album and this release, if we're gonna rate this style, like with vegan straight edge bands, if Earth Crisis is here, right? This release is kind of like right there for me.
And people who can't
it's
see
right
him,
there. I'm sorry.
They're pretty close to each other.
They're pretty close to each other. Earth Crisis is still in and out. Destroy the Machines is still above it, in my opinion, but not by much. Because these guys, I mean, it's just a killer record.
I agree.
There's not. Sometimes it gets a little old, the concept, but the music, and even if you could take these songs and let's say listen to one song a day, it would never get old. That makes sense. Listening to the album over and over again.
I listened to this thing like 6 times, right?
Yeah. And
it didn't really get old for me until I was walking home listening to it, where I could really focus on the words.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, I listened to it, I think 2 times on my walk home. And by the second time I was like, okay, I get it. I agree with this stuff. But no, because
right.
Because the intro, right, is so powerful.
Yeah. To
Suffer with Philip Wollen's speech. And it just makes you want to change and do something, be a better person, take care of the world and your animal friends. And then it's just your stomach is a tomb. I get it. It's cool. You're speaking truth to me, but you're just telling me too much, man.
Right.
I don't know. I guess that's the only criticism I have.
Yeah. But seriously, I mean.
But I bought the hoodie. I bought the vinyl. So that shows you I do like them.
Right. Oh, yeah. And there's not one song where you don't feel the passion behind it.
I agree.
Like, there's other stuff that it's good. Other bands that are good and stuff, but for me, it's the passion. Like I might not agree with anything that they say, but they believe it.
Yeah,
and they're saying important. It, and to me, that's being real. Like they're not faking that. Nope. That is legit, and that's what I love about it. That's what I love about hardcore to begin with. Is there's some that's not real or whatever, but the majority of the stuff that's out, the passion behind it is what draws me to it. And the more passionate, the more real, the more drawn I'm going to get. And so when this came out, I was like, holy crap. It's
really, really, really good.
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe how good it is.
Yeah. I can't believe you did. I like, have you just found these guys or?
Yeah. So check this out. I've seen this album everywhere for like since it came out, since November, like, and the artwork just never made me want to look at the I didn't know what it was. And when I looked at it more closely, what really happened was a few friends of mine were like, this record is so good. If you, one of my friends, CJ, was like, if your band doesn't kick this hard, quit playing music. And I still didn't give it a chance. Right. I was like, Vanguard. Okay, whatever. And then another friend of mine, this is probably the best record of 2020. And I saw this everywhere. And then I saw New Age post the record and all this stuff. And there's just so much music out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so many bands. And honestly, I kept looking at that album cover and I didn't really know what it was. At first I thought it was like an old, like, painting of like someone hanging a flag or something. I didn't know what it was exactly. And then the reason I listened to this record, and I shit you not, is I ordered Life Force record from New Age Records, right? And when I got it on the box, the vinyl record box had a Vanguard stamp on it. Like they actually put it in the ink and stamped it on it. And I was like, that must be a sign. I think I should listen to this band. And so that's what finally got me I know that's weird, but that's what finally got me to listen to the band. And once I listened to it and heard that first intro clip, I lost my mind. I was like, this is so good. And that's when I went and actually looked at the album cover and I'm like, oh, they're skinning animals. Like, this whole thing was very thought out.
Yeah. Well, I remember when they were doing they were pushing this album to come out. I remember there was a lot of times when I would go through my Instagram feed, it would have that sensitive content over it. Like you couldn't see it. Like I would see friends or other bands post about a band like Vanguard. And I'd be like, well, why does it say sensitive content on it? And I click it and I'll be like, oh, that's the cover. And I was like, it was getting flagged even before it came out.
Let me look at this cover again. I know it's a painting, right?
Yeah.
It's weird because it's sort of abstract in what it is, but it's not. It's not. Does that make sense? Like, there's not a lot of detail in it, so it's hard to tell what it is until you actually take a really good look at it.
Yeah.
Like if your eye just passed by that, you would just be like, oh, that I don't know. Like, it looks like they could be doing anything, but once you get to know the band and you understand it, you're like, oh, and there's like a hoof down there. Yeah, you can tell once you actually look at it.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty brutal.
Yeah, I'm on their Instagram page right now, and I don't know how some of this isn't flagged with the realm that we live in right now, because there's some pictures with some AKs and some other stuff, and I'm like, how is that not flagged right now? But
I don't think I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's the album reviews.
That's the album reviews. We did it. Did you want to play one more? Did you want to play one more track off of the Vanguard album to play out to the next thing?
Yeah, I want to drop the track you want to listen to, your favorite.
The Defeatist one?
Defeatist. Drop it now. Boom.
fucking degenerate. Your actions define that which your character contains. You're full of shit and you're fine with it. A fucking degenerate. The wall has been lifted and you've seen the torment. There's no going back in your conscience. Try as you might to hide from the shame. Defeated, fool, traitor. Those are your fucking names. To prioritize personal greed above the innocent lives that you inflict is to cut your fucking hands in blood red paint. You deserve 10 times their suffering, a lifetime of misery. No more to eat.
So I've been pretty nervous and excited for this chat. Mick and I have talked off the air, off podcast a lot about the state of the world and how we both personally feel about it. And I got to say that I do respect the hell out of Mick, and his journey so far has been very, very interesting. Him and I have chatted about Americanized Christianity and how it's morphed into something him and I really can't see Jesus in at all anymore. We've chatted about cancel culture, the good and bad that comes with it. We talked about that on air on the first podcast. We've talked about it off air. The good being it keeps people from being straight up scumbags and keeps people accountable nowadays. Celebrities and people in power can't just get away with anything. The bad being the far-sighted left canceling everyone for shit they don't agree with, even if the person involved is wrong or not. It's dangerous. It's tightrope leaning towards delusion and reality. We chatted about the far right and how it's fallen into a side of confusion and in some cases straight up bigotry and hatred. The face of life and mortality is changing and right in front of us, and if we like it or not. For those new to this podcast, Mick is a founding member of the 90s Christian hardcore band Zao, a father of 3, a husband, a pastor, and he does 3 podcasts, including this one, and works delivering coffee in his spare time. And unfortunately, it's very sad. This Christmas, he lost his father to COVID. Mick has seen a lot on his path, and he's here to share the grit and the shine of his journeys. So let's get into it. Mick, let's dive right into this. This might get uncomfortable, might be an uncomfortable conversation to hear, and listeners may disagree with some of the stuff we say, but please enter this with an open mind. And Mick, do you want to start with Americanized Christianity?
Yeah, we can. We're just going to go for it. We'll just go for it.
Let's go for it, brother.
To give a little bit of background, so I can kind of share where I'm coming from and kind of talk about like why I legit can kind of say some things about this subject is because I've been a pastor now for 25 years in one capacity or another. I've worked in several types of denominations. The denominations that I've mainly worked in have been Pentecostal, which is what my family is. A lot of my family has come from. Like I pastor. My dad was a pastor. My grandparents were involved in missions and other things. My great-grandfather was a pastor. My great-great-grandfather was a pastor. My great-great-great-grandfather was a horse thief.
Shoe salesman.
He's a horse thief. But that's kind of like my family has all been involved in that. So, I was involved in the Pentecostal denomination, extremely traditional, conservative. And then also have done ministry in charismatic churches and in that arena. And involved in both of those, I was involved in the political side of things that it exists now, and have worked with a lot of those groups that did work in DC and met with politicians and stuff. So I've actually sat across the table with senators and congressmen. I've done video work where we've recorded interviews with folks and senators, and even when you watch the news like CNN or any of those, and they show the shot of the senator or the congressman and they're in a room and you look behind them and there's pillars like in a round thing like this, that's in the Senate in the Congress building. And you kind of go there and there's a rotunda, and that's where they all stand to do their interviews. And so I've done camera work and worked on interviews with these guys in places like that. So when it comes to this stuff, I kind of been there, done that, and walked it out. So that's kind of why I can kind of say some things into this. So I just kind of wanted to give that preface before we get into this, not because I'm not just some, you know what I'm saying? I'm not just some, I'm not just running my mouth. I've actually been involved in it. And I think if you've been involved in it and walked in it, then you should be able to say some things about it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So
I have not. That's a whole different world for me. So when you told me about all this, when we've had these chats off air, I find it very interesting because it's a whole different world for me. It's like a whole sub eternity. I don't know. Right. It's weird. It's totally so far from my reality.
Well, it's totally a subculture if you think about it. I mean, it's a whole other world, and it's crazy, and some folks don't understand that there's things going on behind the scenes that maybe we didn't realize, and we thought maybe people are just saying things and talking about things and publishing things, and but there's actually legit people working behind the scenes to bring about what they want to see in this change. And so, and there's a lot of money behind it as well.
Oh yeah.
So I think if we're going to start this conversation, we kind of have to start with kind of where American Christianity has brought us to, and that would be January 6th. I don't know if we can talk about the state of the church without talking about that, because if you watch the news and you watched all that play out on January 6th, the insurrection, I'm not afraid to call it that because that's what it was. But when you look and you see all the symbols that were there other than a Trump flag and the Confederate flag, there were Christian flags. There were signs that said Jesus saves. There were people wearing things that had crosses on them and God Save America and all this stuff. So the pictures there that we saw was a picture of, whether we like it or not, if you call yourself a Christian, whether you like it or not, that was the picture that was being portrayed to the entire world, is that they were legit Christians and church people, church folk at this thing that was causing this much disruption and ended up taking people's lives.
Yeah.
So if this is the end product, then I don't, we've talked about this before, and we even said this before it got to that point, that, we were kind of, with that image, we were kind of done with it already. And now this happens.
What do you mean done with it?
Done with what?
The Americanized Christianity, basically?
Yes, basically, yeah. What it has built to. So going from, sorry, go ahead.
It just doesn't, I'm stumbling here, but I just want to choose my words carefully, but the way this Americanized Christianity seems like to me, it just doesn't have any room for Jesus in it anymore.
Right.
It's not even about Jesus anymore.
No.
And I guarantee you he wouldn't before this at all.
Right. Well, it's what happens with any religion. Any religion, I want to be careful with how I say this. I'm just going to stick to the church. So I'm not going to say any religion. So I'm just going to say the church. Anytime the church has married itself with power, with empire, with government, with anything like that, anytime those two come together, there's normally bloodshed. Let's go back. When the church married empire back in the later, the early days of the Catholic Church, when it moved away from the Catholic Church being the universal church, and it moved to this entity that was becoming an empire, the quote unquote Christian empire. What happened? Well, we started conquering other countries in the name of God, killing people, enslaving people. We came up with a group of rules and regulations. And if you didn't follow those rules and regulations, then you were determined an enemy, or you were determined bad. And so you became something that you had to conquer. You had to conquer these other people because they were against God. Well, that's not what Jesus taught at all, but that's what happens when those two things come together. And what eventually happened is we launched the entire world into the Dark Ages. Remember? Because we didn't want anything to do with Roman culture or Greek culture, philosophy, science, anything like that. So we threw all that away. And what happened? The known world got launched into the Dark Ages, and a plague happened, right? The Black Death, that happened. Yeah. Well, then things start to change, and you had a group of monks that were going, you know what, maybe some of this ideas, thought, science is important, so we should look at it. And then you had guys discovering, all kinds of medical advances and scientific advances, discovering things in the universe, the different planets and things like that. Most of those guys were monks or scientists who were Christian, right? So things started to shift, and we started coming out of the Dark Ages. But what happens again? You've got a Reformation, and the church goes right back to marrying the church and empire again. And you have Calvinists who are killing people who they call heretics. You've got Puritans who are killing people because they think they're witches, right? Practicing magic. And so they're going to burn them at the stake. The guys who translated the Bible into English so common people could read it, what did they do to them? They either strangled them and then burnt their ashes and tossed them into a river, or they burned them at the stake. All kinds of horrendous things have been done.
Wait. You're saying the people who translated the Bible into English, they were doing that too?
Yes. William Tyndale translated the Bible, I think, into German or English. I can't remember which one, but because he was translating into a different language, he was martyred. They killed him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's either Tyndale or I can't remember the other guy, but if they didn't like one of them, they didn't like him so much that 100 years later, they dug up his bones, burned him, and threw his ashes in the river. Yeah.
100 years later.
Yeah.
Like, F this guy.
Exactly. And so this is kind of happening. I mean, it could go all the way up to the King James, the Church of England. The reason why there's even a King James translation, it's all messed up. It comes down to this whole marriage of empire and the church. And there's always bloodshed and there's bad stuff. And think about, let's just get real. Why was, when we talk about our country, America, and its founding, they always say, well, we're a Christian nation. Well, what did we do in the name of God in this nation? We killed
bad things.
We killed Native Americans. We took land. We came here. Yeah. In the name of God, we went and took people from another country and enslaved them and brought them here. We brought Africans here, and as slaves, we built an entire economy off the back of black slaves. The entire South's economy was built on black slaves, and they did that in the name of the church. The church was behind that. The entire Confederate War was preached about in Confederate churches as the right thing to do. That's part of our history, and we have to realize that. And so the bloody side of this is every single time the church gets involved with politics, with empire, with anything like that, this is what happens. And it's not something that's new. It's something that's been going on for a long time now. And it's against the teachings of Jesus.
The bummer of it is it keeps recycling itself.
Right. Because we're human beings and we love power.
And we don't know history very well.
And we don't learn our history at all. The roots of what's happening now is from what was, the Christian coalition or the religious right, and that all that started back it kind of took off in the 70s, but it really started in the 50s and 60s. And I'll link an article to kind of, so people know that I'm not just blowing smoke, that this is real. But the reason why the religious right and the Christian Coalition was started was not because of the abortion issue, which that's like the big thing, right? The pro-life movement that all started out of the 70s. That's why the religious right and the Christian Coalition, all this was started. That's not the reason why it was started. It was started because places like Bob Jones University and these other big name Christian universities were segregated. And the government was like, listen, we're moving away from segregation. It's unconstitutional. It's not right. And if you're not going to allow other people of color to come to your school, you're going to lose your 501c3 tax status. And if you lose your 501c3 tax status, then everybody that gives to your organization towards that school are not going to get tax credit for it. And so you need to change the way you do the school and allow anybody to come. And guess what that did? It ticked off a lot of church people. And so there were main guys in those colleges that came up with this idea. If we could stir the church up to stand up against one issue, then we can change the way stuff is done in DC, and we can get these politicians on our side. And not only can we do this, but we can get them to back off the segregation thing. And so that's how it all started. And so this movement that everybody seems to be trumpeting behind, if I can play on a word, about how the moral majority, or we're gonna stand up, and this is the church's job, was all based off of racism. And that's the scary thing about all this, is people who are hooting and hollering about pro-life movement and all this. And honestly, I'm pro-life. Okay. I am pro-life, but I'm pro-life from beginning to end. I'm against the death penalty. I'm against, keeping Medicare away from folks and health insurance away from folks who can't afford it. I think that's wrong. I think, and that's being pro-life, right? I mean, taking care of the earth is being pro-life, but the movement that's out there right now that's being presented by the church is only focusing on babies. And the crazy thing is, and like I said, we'll link the article where you can get in and read this. The crazy thing is the church, the majority of the American church, did not have any stance on abortion until the 70s. Before that, the statement was, if the mom was in danger, if it was rape or incest, then they could stand behind abortion. And now that's completely changed. It's 100% all about whatever. And you got to start asking yourself questions and digging into this and asking, why did it shift? And it's because of money. And you and I have had this conversation before.
Yeah, you're going to get into it, right?
I'm going to get into it now. Yeah.
This is the part that it doesn't excite me, I guess, but I guess it's good that you're digging into it and that you have this knowledge. That's what excites me. The context of it doesn't excite me, but the knowledge part does.
So part of the stuff that I did, in the early 2000s, I got involved with a lot of different ministries that were pro-life and did everything from going to DC and standing in front of the courthouse, the Supreme Court, and praying over it, praying over the Capitol, praying over the White House.
You were a Republican.
I've always been registered independent, but the pro-life movement was very.
Well, you were in cahoots with the Republican Party.
Yes, I work, and because of the churches that I had worked for, and because of these ministries, and because I was working in video production and working with website building back in those times, and some graphic design, that's how I could get involved and I could help. Right. So I would build websites. I would go and do video productions. Like I'd be the guy behind the camera. And some of these things where a pastor or another guy would interview these congressmen and talk to them about the pro-life movement. When Marco Rubio first got involved in politics and came to DC for the first time, it was like after the first month that he was there, I was at a meeting with him and about 5 other congressmen and senators, and sat across the table with him with the camera, and I ran microphones and all that production while another guy asked him questions and he talked. So that's how deeply involved I was in this. Okay. So was doing things like that, and was working at a church in Ohio. And in Ohio, a couple years, it's been quite a few years ago. I can't remember the right exact dates, but there was a bill that was being written up called the Heartbeat Bill. Okay. And basically the slogan was, if a heartbeat is detected, then the baby, or if the heartbeat is detected, the baby's protected. Okay. So it was this whole thing. If there's a heartbeat, then you can't abort. That was the whole movement. All right. And so at the time, being heavily involved in this, I was like, holy cow, for the state of Ohio, this means, basically abortion is going to end. This is what everybody's talking about. This is what the pro-life movement wants. Okay. Thinking like that, I was like, this is amazing. Okay. This is going to happen. And so this can happen here, and it can happen all across the country. And then it's going to become, within different states, basically the law of the land. So at the time in Ohio, both the entire House of Ohio was all pro-life. The majority was pro-life senators and congressmen. The governor was said to be pro-life. So this thing is going to pass. There's going to be no issues, no problem, right? The guy who wrote the bill, his name was Dr. Wilkie. He's actually the guy who started Right to Life in the United States. He's the guy that started the whole thing. He's like the granddad of the Right to Life movement. All right. He's the one that wrote the bill. Okay. The first office for Right to Life was in Ohio, and he's the one that started it. So this is his home state. He's writing this bill, and it's going to pass. Like, there's no way it can't pass. This is what everybody's excited about, until the Right to Life group, the main group, the actual group that has a 501c3, the group that is that goes into these different political arenas and fights for their position and pushes senators and congressmen to vote. As soon as they heard about this bill, they said, nope, it's not enough. So that was the first group. Another Right to Life group, called by a different name, run by a different denomination, said it's too much. So you have a group that says it's not enough. There's a group that says it's too much. And both of them say it's not going to make it to the Supreme Court. And so all these guys are arguing and fighting over this. Well, then senators and congressmen in Ohio start arguing and fighting over this. They're all supposed to be pro-life. They're all supposed to be this or that. And so when this is happening, I'm in the midst of all of it, and I'm doing video production. I actually created the website for this Heartbeat bill, the main people behind it. I created it for them. I'm in meetings like at least once a month. I'm in meetings with these groups of people, hearing all their ideas. I'm the one putting all this information out. Okay. So I'm seeing all the behind the scenes, and I'm seeing all this stuff. And eventually there's this main meeting with the guy from the main Right to Life group in Ohio and the Heartbeat Bill people and another group. And they all come in and they start talking. And that's when you find out what's behind this whole thing. They're talking, and then the money issue comes up. And if this bill passes, then they're no longer going to get the same amount of money in that they normally get in every year to fight this issue on a national scale.
So did they actually come out and say this?
Yes.
Or yeah.
Yes, in this meeting. This isn't a
So this was like behind
meeting.
the scenes.
This is like to work on stuff and to work things out so everybody can get on the same page, so this thing can pass in Ohio. So
but they didn't want it to pass, though.
No, they didn't want it to pass, because if it did, they would lose money. Mm-hmm. And that's the root of it. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that there's not good people involved in all this, and there's not people that have convictions and actually care.
Right. No, I get it. They're just overpowered.
Right. They don't know that this stuff's going on behind the scenes. Okay. So, walking out of that meeting, and honestly, this is the beginnings. When I saw this is the beginnings of what I would call my deconstruction from that arena. Like, because when you see that and it's in your face, and something that you were like fighting for, like what you thought was pro-life, Like this, that's what I thought pro-life was at that time. I'm fighting for the life of this child. I didn't care about the mom. I didn't care about the situation. I didn't care about the circumstances. I didn't care about, I didn't even look at the statistics that said that when another party was in power, like everything's like only the Republicans are pro-life, right? I mean, that's what's always portrayed in the church. But when you go back and look at statistics, you find out that when Democrats are in power, there's less abortions that happen in the United States. Okay. So who's more pro-life than the other? If you're going to look at it but at that time I didn't investigate that much because I was passionate about this concept and this idea. So after that meeting, I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see the ugly side of all this, the details side of all this. And I will never forget, there was another pastor there that was with me because I was back in this one area and I'm doing like the media part of it because they had slides and different things and showing stuff. And I'll never forget this other guy that was with me. And he looked right at me and he said, I don't know if any of this is like Jesus at all. And as soon as he said that, my heart sank. And I was like, yeah, you're right. This not only does this not have anything to do with Jesus, this really doesn't have anything to do with life. This is all a power game. This is all about how can we stay in power? How can we keep influence in this arena? And
exactly, yeah.
And I started, really started deconstructing, really started asking the questions, the hard questions. And I remember the meetings that I was in after that with the people that I was hired to work with. I started asking questions. I started doing that, and it was not cool. You shouldn't ask those questions. You shouldn't bring that up. And shortly after, it wasn't
people hear that in church all the time too. Right.
You're not supposed to ask questions. You're not supposed to. And so shortly after that, is maybe that the end of the year, the main, the pro-life governor of Ohio wouldn't sign the bill. And so you start seeing all this stuff and like, you start figuring out, okay, this really doesn't have anything to do with, the life of babies. This really has to do with money and influence and power. And so from that, you start asking these questions like, what really is it? What really does it mean to be pro-life when it comes to how Jesus sees things? And so when you start opening that up, and at least for me, what I started seeing is, okay, we have to start seeing about life in every situation. How does that play out? And so now I would consider myself, yes, I'm pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice, if that makes sense at all. And maybe it might not make sense to some listeners, but to me, it's when you give somebody
everything's situational, man.
Right, exactly.
In life, you can't just cut something so black and white that doesn't exist. You have to have thought behind the process. You have to have thought behind everything.
Exactly. And when you actually have and this is the thing, when you actually have conversations with people, when you actually open yourself up and you talk to people who have actually had to make that choice, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's happy about making that choice. Right. But when you're in that movement, you're told this is what people want. They want to do this. They want to do it anytime they want. They want to be able. It's the same thing with the LGBTQ community, right? In those same arenas, when I was working there, I was told that there was a gay agenda. Okay. I was told that all the time. They're trying to take over. They're trying to do this. They're trying to shove this all down your throat. And I'm like, eventually I started asking the questions like, really, who's trying to do that? Because there's nobody coming to my door to do that. And all the folks that I knew, in my time being in Zayo, in my time in different places in my life, when I've had friends who were from that community, the LGBTQ community, nobody was trying to shove anything down my throat. Nobody was trying to do anything. Nobody was trying to push their perspective on me. What I started to realize was they're just like every other human. They want to be treated as a human being. Mm-hmm. And so there's no agenda other than, can we just be treated like everyone else? Can you treat me like a human being? And so when you look at scripture and you know that everyone's created in the image of God and we're to honor that image in everyone, maybe we need to back up and quit trying to shove how we feel on somebody else, which is what Americanized Christianity does.
Yeah.
If we could come around the long loop here.
Don't you think they do that exact thing of what they accuse other people of doing?
Yes, and here's the reason why. And this is what I was kind of going back to the thought of what the church does. When church becomes religion, when it becomes beyond love, what happens is it has to have, since it can't. Love brings freedom. Okay, and I have this thing, and it's from this guy named his last name is Balthasar, if I can say. He's a German theologian, and he has this phrase that says, "Love alone is credible." So only love is credible. Everything else is just theory. Everything else is just concepts. Everything else is just ideas. Only love is credible. And so if as a Christian, if Jesus is who you follow, and Jesus says that the way is love, then love is it. Okay. Everything else that we come up with are just concepts and theology. And if any of that is not based in love, it's worthless. So, yeah. Okay. So love actually brings freedom to your life. Okay. Because Jesus said the two great commandments, and there's actually three parts to it, but the two great commandments are love God, and I'm going to paraphrase, love God with everything you got, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's not two, it's actually, there's three things there. You love God with everything that you got. And the reason we know that the reason why we can love him is because he first loved us. So there's this process here where we learn that God's not mad at us, that he actually loves us. And in that understanding of him loving us, the creator of everything loves us, then we can understand, okay, if the creator loves us, then we should be able to love ourselves. And if we can learn to love ourselves, to see us for who we really are, not what other people say, not what we think, all the negative, garbage that we come up with about ourselves. If we can actually love ourselves because we've encountered love, then we can love other people the way God sees us, right? So if God loves us for who we are, who we were created to be, if he loves us just plain simple, nothing else, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to be anything.
Yeah,
I don't have to do anything.
Agenda.
Right. It's just me. Okay. He loves me for me. And I learned to love myself the same way. Then I can love other people too. Because when I look at them, I go, oh, they're created in the image of God, and God loves them the same way, just the way they are. So I should be able to love them. That's the main teaching of Jesus, the way. That's it. Okay. Well, when you can't, and that's freeing, right? I mean, there's so much freedom in that. There's freedom for you. There's freedom for your neighbor, because your neighbor feels like I don't have to do anything for that guy to respect and honor me.
Yeah, but I think that's the hardest thing to actually accomplish.
It is
to truly love yourself and truly love someone else with no agenda as people. Set aside Christians, because as people,
right?
Like, I think that. I don't think we really know that concept. Maybe you do as a father.
Right.
Because I've heard from my friends who have kids that when you have a child, you actually know true love.
Right.
But besides that, I don't know if many people show true love to other people.
Right. And that's because, and let's think about it, because you and I both have been in the punk and hardcore scene. You much longer than me, but because of that, we've got to come into contact with all kinds of different people and from all different faiths, right? Like sure. I've talked with Krishnas, I've talked with Muslims, I've talked with Buddhists, I've talked with, you name it. I've got to sit down and talk to folks, sat down at tables and eaten and had all kinds of crazy conversations. And in every single one of those faiths, it all comes down to love, right? I mean, every single one of them say almost the same thing when it comes to loving your neighbor and loving yourself. And to me, the point that Christ brings is that you're not alone in the love, because the way you're going to be able to learn to love yourself and learn to love your neighbor is learning that the Creator, God, loves you. And how we know that is from Christ. Okay? Christ shows us that love. And so the problem is when we don't experience that freedom and we don't walk in that freedom, what happens, and I'm just going to just speaking in the church realm because that's where I come from, what the church tends to do when it doesn't walk in the way of love, it creates rules and regulations. And if you can't create rules and regulations, then you have to have an enemy that those rules and regulations are going to show you who the enemy is. And so since there's no freedom in love, then freedom comes from fear and intimidation.
We know all about
control. That. Right. And so that's what happens. So there has to be an enemy. So the LGBTQ community is evil and they're the enemy. The Democrats are evil and they're the enemy. Anybody who gets an abortion or a doctor who performs abortions, they're the enemy. When I was doing Zayo, that style of music was the enemy. Before that, when I was a young kid, and I grew up in a household where we listened to Elvis Presley and the Beatles and Bob Dylan and all that stuff. Well, my youth pastors and my youth leaders told me that all that was evil. That if you played Led Zeppelin backwards, it would tell you to do horrible and horrendous things. And I remember laughing so hard about it because I was like, what do you mean I've listened to that stuff. It's never told me to do anything like that. But, rock and roll music is evil. I remember going to a Carmen concert. Yes, I've been to a Carmen concert. If you don't know who Carmen is, just look him up and you can have a good laugh.
Don't look him up.
Don't look him up.
Do yourself a favor.
But I was at a Carmen concert and I remember him getting up and talking about Procter and Gamble, the company Procter and Gamble, who put out all kinds of, they're still around. They do food and soap and all kinds of household items. And their logo was at that time was a woman and she had 7 stars around her head. And that was demonic and evil. So that was the enemy.
No way. You shouldn't.
Oh yeah. I'm not.
You
no,
talked
I'm not,
about
dude.
this at a concert?
Yeah, at a concert. He wanted to get people to boycott Procter and Gamble. And, we talked about cancel culture in that episode. Man, Christians, the church is the worst when it comes to cancel culture. We're always boycotting things. And so for me, I've come to a point where we've had this conversation. We had it on with, I can't believe I've Rich. Yeah. From Everybody's Coffee, and he was talking about how, he didn't feel comfortable in an organized religion or a church anymore because of how the church treated his family, where he's from. And he started asking questions and started questioning everything. And I'm sure that there's been leaders in his life that have told him, you're not allowed to ask those questions. You're not allowed to go down that road. You just need to trust God. Or I was told a lot, preach, pray, or die. You got to keep going. You don't ask those questions. And that's nonsense. We're human beings and we're created with this thing in us to ask questions, to find out more, to look for more, to find answers.
I think that's healthy.
Yes. And, and so for me, when Rich shared that conversation with us, I for me, it was kind of like the same, not so much the same journey, but the same feelings were there. They were raw and they were real because I've had those same feelings. And I know, people might be listening and like, well, Mick, you're a pastor. I'm like, I don't care. Pastors go through the same stuff. We talk about the same thing. And we have questions the same way. And, those questions and that digging and that looking for understanding has led me to a place where, honestly, for real, for the first time in my life, I actually feel free. And some of the things that I think and some of the thoughts that I have probably would make a whole lot of people uncomfortable. I know the LGBTQ conversation makes people uncomfortable, and I don't care anymore. I don't care if that makes people uncomfortable because I'm at a place where I'm going to walk in love and I'm going to love everybody. It doesn't matter how they feel, how they identify, where they come from. I don't care anymore because Jesus honestly does not give a rip.
Hey, Mick.
Yes.
Do you remember about a month ago I sent you, Livy was having some questions about God and faith. Yeah. And I kind of wrote this thing out. Like, what do you think about, I still want to hear what you have to say, of course, but what do you think about, it sounds like it's going in that direction. So what do you think about kind of mixing that in with this?
We'll go right ahead. I don't have.
Are you for it?
No, I think I'm totally for it. And I think that I think it is going where this conversation is going. I think we kind of answered the question about American Christianity. You know, this is why we're done with it, because it doesn't, to me, it no longer follows the way. And when I say the way, I'm talking about the way of love that Jesus taught. It doesn't follow it. So yeah, I basically labeled it as faith, God, and how we see ourselves. And I put a disclaimer. I said, I'm not saying I don't believe in God, because I personally very much do. I'm only expressing my thoughts and doubts that cross my mind, which they do, and often. I think we all have them, if I'm being honest. And if we're being honest with ourselves, I think everyone has them. It's healthy.
I think so. And basically, my wife and I have been having talks about God and how we see God and how we were told and taught how to see God as we were growing up. And one question we asked ourselves was, do we see God the way we do because of our upbringing and place in this world? Or do we see God because that's how we actually see God? That's a question I have for you.
It comes for me. Here's what I think. And here's what I think. We
like geographically.
Geographically, and it's like this all over the world. When you think about it, when a baby is born, it enters into a world where they have a parents, grandparents, or foster families or something. They come into something to where people are constantly telling them how to think, how to feel, and what to believe. Okay, that's across the board. It happens all over the world, and so And normally most of the time when you get out of your 20s and you get into your 30s and 40s, you start to have these questions. And depending on where you're at, if you're in a very traditional atmosphere, you're instantly told, those are not good thoughts. Do not have those questions. Do not walk that out. That's just, depends on where you're at. That's just the devil. That's just, culture trying to drag you into this. And so you're taught your entire life what God is. You're basically told who he is. And now in America, for the most part, we're told that God is an old man in heaven with white hair and a beard who's waiting to strike you down with a bolt of lightning as soon as you screw up and you mess up. It might not be worded exactly like that, but a lot of the teachings of hellfire, brimstone, you're going to burn, it's over, you're toast, you're a hell missile. This is what happens if you break these rules and regulations. This is what's going to happen. And they try to keep you in line and keep you moving, keep you in the pew so you can keep giving money. But you're told that. And let's have a little bit of grace. The reason why maybe your parents, your grandparents, or the pastor the church you went to, the reason why they tell you to do that is because somebody told them to do that. The person that was in leadership over them told them to do that. Their grandparents told them to do that. Their grandparents, you know what I'm saying? It's something that's brought down and passed down. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. Pre-First Reformation, when I say First Reformation, I'm talking about when the Catholic Church went from just being the church to an empire. Pre that, when it came to what Christians did, they basically lived life and walked things out and asked questions. The majority of faith was lived out around what we would call our dining room table. Okay. And so there was conversations, there was talk, there were stories, right? Think about this. For the most part, what are people drawn to when it comes to learning or being entertained or having new ideas brought to them? What's the best way to do that? Stories.
You asked me the question.
I was asking the question, but I'll answer it anyway. It's through stories. We think about it. We
the answer stories.
Yeah, we think about it. We share stories through music. We share stories through movies. We share stories through TV shows. We share stories through books. We share stories. You know, one of my favorite things growing up was sitting at the table with my grandparents, and they tell me stories when they were growing up and the adventures that they used to have around the farm and all kinds of stuff. And one of my favorite things to do is sitting at my table with my kids and telling them of all the dumb stuff that I did as a kid, being chased by a black bear, riding in go-karts around the middle of nowhere with a 22 strapped to my back, and getting lost in the woods. Yeah, getting lost in the woods at a coal mine, and like stuff that I would never let my kids did, but for some reason my parents let me do, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's how we learn. That's how we are intrigued. That's how we find new ideas and actually become more creative. Well, a lot of that has been taken away, and a lot of that is not even entertained when it comes to Christianity. I'm just going to stick with the church because that's kind of what we come out of. So it's very dogmatic. It's not free. It's not movable. This is how it is, and you have to fall in line with that. If not, you could be called a heretic. You could be called backslidden. You could be called all kinds of things. So when you start asking questions about stuff like, why is it that when I pray, I don't hear anything? Or why is it that I feel like this sometimes? Or is God really mad at me if I screw up or mess up? Does he really care if I say shit or not? Is he angry with me because I don't have 10% to give in the offering this week? Is he really mad? Am I robbing God? Is he going to keep from me, whatever, like,
any blessings in your life or whatever.
Exactly. And, let's get, even coming down to like, okay, I have a friend at work who's a Muslim. Is God really going to send him to hell? Is hell real? Is hell even real? Is that real? What about heaven? What is heaven like? Is heaven streets of gold? What?
No, I like where this is going, but let me conjoin this real quick. I have a question that ties into exactly what you're doing and saying right now.
Okay.
So how do we know the way we worship, pray to our God is the right way? Is there a right way?
Are you asking me that question?
Yeah, man. I'm asking everybody. Right, you're the one I'm talking to.
You're the one I'm talking to. All right. If you would have asked me this question 10 years ago, I would say that there's only one way. That's what I would say. If you asked me that 10 years ago. Now, from where I am at, I am secure enough to say that I think.
Hold on. Yeah, let's cut all the Christian bullshit.
Right.
And let's just be real.
I'm just going to be real.
I know it's harder for you to be real because you're a pastor and your ties with the church, but I would respect you if you're whatever that means to you. I'll respect you more if you're just real.
I'm just going to be real.
Let's hear it.
From where I'm at now, I'm secure enough to say that I think you'll note I say this because I've actually been trying to change my language and how I share things and how I say things. I try not to identify when I talk about God. I try to say more creator. I try to relate the fact that when the creator formed and put all this together and made human beings, he made them in his image. And so if he made them in his image, then that means that God's just not a dude, that God's a woman, that there's both male and female there. And so there's,
or God's even bigger than that. We can't comprehend.
Like, why are we putting him into the way we understand things or the way we comprehend things? And so I try to use things like creator when I do talk about, I'll talk about Jesus, but honestly, I want to get to what did Jesus really represent? He represented Christ, this concept of redemption and anointing. So it's bigger than just Jesus, because but Jesus was Christ, and Christ is bigger than just Jesus.
But how do we know the way that we worship, see, and pray to our God is the right way?
That's for you to figure out. And that's my thing.
What do you mean that's? Are you saying that's for me to figure out or for the listener to figure out?
That's for everyone to figure out. my thing is,
that sounds kind of.
What do you mean?
A politician answer to me.
Politician? Would you? How more real do you want me to get? Like, you've got to figure out. Like, I'm not like my place
Here's what I'm gonna say.
You say this. Well, you're gonna let me finish my thought, and then you say it. Here's the finish my thought.
That's fair.
My job as a pastor, the way I see my job is not to tell you what to think or do. My job, what a pastor is, in the understanding of that is a shepherd, not a shepherd as a controller.
No, but I'm not asking you
guides and leads. I understand that, but
I'm asking you as a person, not as a not.
I'm getting to that. Okay. Because what you're asking me is you're asking me to tell you how to, and I can't tell you how to.
No, I'm not though. I'm asking you, not as a pastor, but as Mick the person. How do you think the way we worship, see, and pray to God is the right way? Like you're a Christian, you believe in God.
Right.
Okay. So do you think that your way, Christ only gets you to heaven? Do you think that's true? Do you think that is the one and only way?
No.
There you go. That's that's the question.
Is that okay? Then I misunderstood your question. I'm sorry. Do I think it's the only way? No, I don't think it's the only way. I think that Christ, the concept of Christ is bigger than the box that we put him in. And Christ is actually universal. The concept of Christ is bigger. What you and I have read in scripture, when you look at who Christ is and what he did and what Jesus showed us who Christ was. Okay. When you look at John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's Christ. It's talking about Jesus. The physical Jesus wasn't actually back then there. It was Christ. Okay. Jesus, personified Christ on the earth. Okay. And so so what he personified and showed us was this bigger picture of salvation. Okay. And so how you and I have come into contact, well, I'll just use me because I don't want to speak for you. How I came into contact with that was through, the New Testament and the Old Testament, reading of that, and walking through that and coming to that understanding. And then, when you talk about prayer and understanding, I see that through the lens of Jesus and Christ. Now, I have friends who have talked to Muslims and Buddhists, and I've read some things by them, and I'm not down with everything, but I see in some of those teachings, I see Christ. And so a guy that I really like and I enjoy reading a lot of is Thomas Merton. And Thomas Merton had a lot of conversations with Buddhist monks, with Buddhist teaching, and actually went to Tibet and met with some monks. He actually died at a Buddhist monastery because he was meeting with different. I actually think he was meeting with the Dalai Lama, and there was an accident where he dropped a heater into. He had a heater set up next to his bathtub because it was cold, and the heater fell in the bathtub, and that's how he died. But there was a lot of conversations happening there because what he saw the bigger picture. He didn't just judge these people because they were different. And, most of the Christian world would say that they were heathen because they didn't believe the way that they did. But he saw the bigger picture. And when he looked in their teachings, he could see Christ, the concept, the main part of it, the loving others as you love yourself, because you had this connection with something bigger than you, that you realize that the universe is not against you, and that God actually loves you and he's not mad at you. And so he saw that in these teachings of other religions and in these, in the Buddhist faith. And I can say that I've seen that myself in some of this other stuff. Is there crazy stuff that happens like with the Muslim faith? Is there crazy things in that happens and people that take it too far and do dumb stuff? Yeah. But on January 6th, we saw the same thing with the church. They did the same thing. Exactly. So, for me, no, I don't think, I'm just going to say it this way. The way that I was raised and taught of who God is, that he's angry, that he's mad, and that Jesus is the only way. Do I see it that way? No, there's more ways. But I do think, and I'm saying this from my lens, from my perspective, I do think that there's this Christ concept that that's everywhere, that you see it. I see it even in the trees and the birds singing and the sunset and the sunrise. It's all right there played out before you. And the scriptures that we would read, as a Christian, it tells us that God's in all of that. Right. Did that make sense at all? Did I ramble too much?
No, you did not ramble. It makes sense because another question I had, but you kind of talked on it, was do people who believe other religions or have other gods have it wrong? And are they really going to hell for not believing the way that we do, westernized kind of Christianity that Jesus does for our sins? Right. I call bullshit on that. Like, I think that's a fear tactic, and that's something that the church has used. That has always sat with me in a really weird way. And I never believed that ever, because I don't think all loving, like you said, a God who truly loves people, real love isn't sending someone to hell for necessarily not believing that that's the one and only way. This is just my opinion, and I'm sure it's not a very popular opinion with some Christians. But.
Well, let's see, if you want to get real, and this is one of those things where Christians don't actually know what they believe. The concept of
what do you mean?
The concept of hell that you and I have probably been taught, the turn or burn,
right? It's the avoidance of God,
right? That teaching has not been around for longer than maybe 200 years. The entire church has never believed that. There's the Western church believes in that because why? Because it's easier to control people. And what the Western church is finding out now, especially the American church, is that your generation, my generation, and the generations that's coming call bullshit on all that, because they're starting to see, wait a second, if you're telling me that God is love and love is God, then he doesn't need a control tactic like hell for me to have a relationship with him. And then because of the internet and because all these translations of the Bible and all these different things from the early church, people can readily get to, unlike what they could do in the 70s and 80s, they're starting to realize, the church didn't even teach that until after the Reformation. That the understanding of what we see hell as now is really, and this is really going to make people mad, the concept of hell that we've been taught is a white man's concept of eternity. It's what Western white folk came up with when they, and what we have colonized all over the world with to keep people in line and keep people in fear. It's also what we used to teach that African Americans or Native Americans or folks of a different color, they were heathens because they followed these false deities and these false gods. And the white man, we've grown and now there's only one God. And so, so they're heathens. So they're not even human beings. So we can kill them, slaughter them, and enslave them. They don't matter. And
is that insane?
It's completely insane. And then, the crazy thing is,
it's not funny. It's just insane.
And the crazy thing is that monks would come to the United States and they would have these encounters with these Native Americans and they would tell them about the Great Spirit. And then the monks would tell them about Jesus. And the Indians were like, oh, well, this, you're talking about the creator of the universe. Yeah, we believe in them. And so to the monks, they were like, oh, they want to get saved. So they would baptize these Native Americans. And then the monks were like, well, they obviously have a soul because they want salvation. And so they're not, they're not totally irredeemable. So we'll make them 3/4 human. And that's the whole concept of slavery, right? Mm-hmm. Even after the slaves were freed, they were only given a 3/4 status of humanity. You justify it by looking down on them as not human, not completely human. Right. And so,
which if you're a Christian, that goes against all of your beliefs or should.
It should. And so the whole idea of hell was wrapped up in that. And if you go and you study scripture and you go and you look at the languages that the Bible is actually written in, the term that we have for hell isn't even there. Matter of fact, the scriptures that people like to use the most, that they say, well, Jesus taught on hell. Well, the hell that Jesus taught on is actually a physical location that sits outside of Jerusalem. And it used to be a garbage dump. It used to be a place of just all kind. That's where everybody sent the dead bodies of thieves and crooks and all kinds of other things, and all the refuse and everything, and was constantly on fire because they would light it on fire trying to get rid of it. And so it was like a never ending fire. And
I didn't know that.
So Jesus was basically using this teaching of like, hey, listen, if you use words that hurt other people, if you use words to hurt yourself, if you do things like this that's going to hurt other people, you're going to wind up like, a piece of trash, and you're going to end up in this burning pit of trash and refuge.
So it's kind of like a parable.
Exactly. And so you can go to this,
and it got taken out of context and made literal.
Yes. And so you can actually go to this place now. It's just so crazy. You can go there now, and it's like this lush park. You can actually go there and hang out. It's like where families go to take their kids on a day that they want to get out of the house. And so it's just it gets back to that concept of, we're so afraid of freedom that comes from love, that we create these things and we create enemies, and we create a place for our enemies because we have to have something to conquer. Yeah.
Aren't we creating enemies right now in America? Like,
exactly.
Where each side it's gotten to the point where even holidays, you can't even talk to people who believe different than you.
Right. Yeah.
And we're talking about politics. Like,
right.
Do we not understand that we have zero voice in politics and we have zero change? Like, we can't change any of this shit. We can't do anything, but people think they can.
Right.
It's insane. These people have empowered themselves on purpose. It doesn't matter who we vote in, what side we vote in. All these people are using their power to make more money and get more power.
Right.
How are we so blind that we're arguing and fighting with loved ones and people, our friends, and we're defriending them all because of a side?
Right. Yeah. And, and as long as these different groups, the church, politicians, big business, as long as they can keep us all infighting and fighting all that, they just keep making more money, because I got to give money to the place that's against my enemy. And so they just keep making more money. And the sad thing is, money's not the bad thing, right? I know the Bible
because it can be used for good,
right? And I love,
it all depends on the heart,
right? And my friend Eric Reeder has this thing where he says money's actually energy, okay? And so what do you want to use your energy for? You want to use your energy for good, or you want to use your energy for bad? And so the church has been using its energy for a long time for bad stuff, creating bad things. I mean, where there's always a scandal or something going on. But we don't have to do that. I mean, we can use our, what do you want to health? When you think about money, what do you want to use it for? What healthy reason do you want to use it for? You want to use it for shelter. You want to use it for your family. You want to use it to keep safe. But then beyond that, what do you want to do? Well, I want to love my neighbor. So I want to give into things. I want to put energy towards things that help them or help others. And that's what I've loved about what we've done with Coffee and Hardcore Records. Like, everything that you've brought for us to do, it takes money and people spend money, but that energy is put towards good things. We're putting it towards, suicide prevention and all this other stuff that's on our heart because we want to help other people. And that's really what it comes down to. That's what we got to get ourselves into. We got to get back to this. I just call it the way of love. We got to get into the way of love again. We got to get to this place where, what can I put my hands on? What can I put my energy towards? What can I spend money on, or what can I spend life on, or what can I spend my joy and my peace? What can I give up? Because whenever you put yourself out there, you give up a little bit of your safety, you give up a little bit of your stuff. So when I think about my family, what do I want to reach out and open my family up to? And how I want to open them up to good things that's going to help other people, not just us, but other people. And, I want people to feel mentally healthy. I want their soul to feel healthy. I want their heart to feel healthy. And so I want to help out that way. So that's the energy that I want to put out and towards. And that's the way that's what Christ talked about doing. And if we could get back to that, I think, gosh, can you imagine what would happen? I mean, because you and I talk about PMA all the time, right? Positive mental attitude. I mean, that's not BSing. That's not saying that you don't have bad days, that you don't walk through depression or anything like that. It means that you're gonna wake up and you're gonna move forward positively. You're gonna try to make, no
matter how bad things get, you're still gonna realize that tomorrow can be better.
Right. And also have the understanding that there, and this is part of I think something that the church has lost is this understanding of empathy and sympathy, because it's easy to flippantly say, well, you just got to make better choices. Well, some people can't make better choices, right? Some people are in situations that suck, and the better choice still isn't a better choice. It's still not a good choice.
Well, and that's selective too. Like, what does that mean? The better choice to you or the better choice to somebody else?
Right. Exactly. And so the better thought there is, if it's someone that I'm connected with, because that's what it comes down to. You talk about making change and making a difference. Making a difference isn't getting involved in politics or whatever. Making a difference is, okay, is there someone around me that when I see them and, I'm talking about making better choices and they can't make a better choice, then how do I help out in that? How do I get involved in somewhere or other to make that better, to walk through that better? To not see myself better than them or over them, but as an equal reaching out and saying, hey, I'm in a different spot. What can I do to help? And if I do that here in my neighborhood and you did that there in your neighborhood, and people everywhere that calls themselves the church did that, and we just actually did what the early church did, is just have church
or just people.
Yeah.
Or if people were just kind to each other.
Exactly. It would be a huge shift, I think. And if I can share a positive outlook for the future or hope, when I look at my kids, I'm going to raise them in that. I want if I'm going to continue to walk and say I'm a part of the church, okay, then I want them to grow up in a healthy understanding of that, and not what I grew up in. Not all the garbage and the junk and the hurt and the pain. And, we just talked about the politics and some of that stuff that I got involved in. We didn't even scratch the surface of the spiritual abuse, the leadership abuse, the things that I went through. And I'll be real, and you wanted me to be real and honest, even because I was a youth pastor in the 90s, because of what I was raised in and because of what I taught and because of the leadership that I had, I passed the abuse that was passed on to me, and that stuff came out of my mouth. I told kids that had questions about their sexual identity, that it was a sin and that they were going to be a hell missile. I said those things from my mouth, and now I have to live with that all these years later and go, holy shit, I could, you know what I'm saying? Like, that person's life could be completely emotionally hurt and abused because of the garbage that came out of my mouth. And I was repeating and I'm totally taking responsibility for the dumb shit I said. But what about, that was like, we talked about, you learn and you take on what's over you, the leadership that's over you, the family that you have that taught you these things. Well, that's what I was taught. That's the God that I was taught. And so I just regurgitated all of that. And so I think about all the junk that I've had to let go and walk out of and deconstruct with these years. I'm 45 years old, and I look back at, and I'm thankful, and I am thankful that I have had the opportunity to reconnect in some of the lives of the young people that I have been youth pastor of and have been able to have real conversations with. And I'm thankful for, as much as I hate social media, I'm thankful for social media in this aspect, because I can say, you know what, I'm really sorry that I said that garbage to you back then. I'm really sorry that was the stuff that was regurgitated to you. And I'm sorry if that hurt you. And how can I, please forgive me, and how can we move forward, and how can I help you if there is any way? And there's some kids that I know that I don't know if I'll ever be able to talk to again. And I have to live with that. Like, I have to walk that out. That's part of the stuff that I have to walk out with. And it's not fun and it's not cool. And all I can say is I'm not going to raise my kids in that crap. I'm not going to raise them in that. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. I'm not going to raise them in that stuff because I see how much hurt and pain it's caused. And it's not real. It's not what Jesus taught. It's not the way of love. It's not helping anybody. It's just causing more division, more hurt. It's more wars. It's like the American Christianity, Western Christianity, all it wants to do is start wars with people. And Jesus was not about war. Jesus was a pacifist. And people don't like to hear that. They want this tough.
Yo, that's what I got tattooed on my wrist, and I got tons of crap from it. It says, I got this done when I was 18 years old. It says, Jesus was a pacifist. I don't know if you can read it. And on the other side, it says, and a spiritual warrior.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
It's the truth. So I'm sorry. I kind of got a little.
No,
there, but
you're cool. Dude, that's huge. That's huge for you to admit, and that's huge for you to unload and decompress, and that's the honesty I was looking for. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your heart.
I just don't want my, that's kind of how I see things going forward. I don't want my kids growing up in that. I have, some nephews and some other family that I don't want to see them damaged the way that I was. And
yeah,
when I say things like that, I don't want to throw shade on my parents, because my parents really weren't the ones that contributed to that. They actually encouraged me to be the way that I am. And that is to constantly dig deeper, to constantly ask questions. I was never told, like, you can't listen to this or can't listen to that. They would always say, is that healthy? Okay. For me, it was a better dialogue. It was like we constantly had conversations. I'll never forget. It's the one thing that Lindsay says that I'm not allowed to get any more of. I love records, and she allows me to keep getting records. But my other love is Bible translations. I love Bible translations. I have half the side of my bookshelves back here are Bible translations. The books that are lined up here on my desk are all Bible. I love them. I love Bible translations. I love reading, especially the original language. And when I was a kid, I developed that love. And I'll never forget, I walked into Sunday school one day with something other than the King James. And I was told that I was a heathen, that I can't believe the pastor's son would have something like, oh yeah. And I wasn't allowed to read from it in class. And so it's things like that I grew up in, thinking, well, maybe this isn't right. And maybe maybe when I ask these questions, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my heart is really evil because it's having these thoughts. And even when all the way up to the time when I started playing music and I started writing stuff with Zayo and doing stuff with them. I remember going to my grandparents' church, which is the church that most of my family went to. I'd go on tour. I'd be gone for months and come back. And, in a sense, because we were, Zayo at that time was way more evangelical and Christian, in a sense, I went and stood in front of all these people proclaiming Jesus. And then I would come back to this church, who didn't want to do anything outside their four walls. And then they would be mad at me and say, if your grandma could see you right now and know what you were doing, she would be so upset with you. She would be so, you'd make her so sad. And I'm like, wait a second. I was just in California in front of like 1,000 people and talking about Jesus. And, when was the last time you guys saw 1,000 people? I mean, and so there's that heartbreak and that, and walking all that out through all that. And I don't want, anything that I'm connected with when it comes to me teaching on Christ. I don't want anybody to go through that. I don't want anybody to feel that way. I don't want anybody to walk through that. I don't want my kids to grow up in that. I don't want my friends and family. So
Yeah, you don't.
So that's
want
why
that
I
for
have.
anybody.
That's why I have hope for the future, because I know that there's more people like me, and I know that there's more. My kids are going to grow up as healthy as I can, as healthy as they can be, and I can teach them as healthy as I can. I'm not going to get everything right, but they're not going to have that concept. They're not going to have that understanding. I want them to be free. I want them to make up their mind. I want them to be able to read things and ask questions and maybe find out stuff that I don't have answers to, because I don't have answers to everything. But
right. So I got another question.
All right.
How come it seems like when we need God the most, he seems absent or so far away? That's something I think about a lot.
For me, it's because I think we don't understand that. I think it's because we don't understand how connected we are to the Creator. And I think that a lot of times there's answers that we have that are here, and we shrug them off because that can't be him, or that can't be God because it's from here. But we're that connected. And so I know it's going to wig people out when I say you got to look inside, but you really, how else do you connect with God? I mean, I'm not looking up in the sky and seeing him. I'm not looking anywhere else. It's here. And so I got to start looking inwardly to see that. As far as why don't I feel it all the time, or why do I not get answers all the time? I don't have a concrete 1, 2, 3 on that. Because there's been times in my life when I haven't had the answers, and I haven't, especially in painful moments. Like when we lost our first child, and we came back from the hospital, and Lindsay was devastated.
When was this?
This is 2012. Lindsay was devastated, and she just wanted to go to bed. And so I got her, basically carry her into the room. And then I went down. At that time we were at the old house. And so we had a living room that was downstairs, and I just went downstairs, and I remember just sitting on the floor, and I had, you name it. You want to think a thought that you would think in that moment. I had it. And I just decided, hey, if God is real, then he's going to be able to put up with me arguing with him. And so I just had it out. I did everything but drop cuss words in the moment. I probably would now, but at the time I didn't. And I didn't hear anything. Didn't feel anything other than anger, because it was, a loss of life. And so I remember over the weeks, there were good, well-meaning people that wanted to send or say certain things, and the typical rhetoric of, you just got to trust, you just got to hold on, and all of that was just like meaningless to me, because I was like, well, that doesn't make, what do you mean just hold on? What do you mean just trust that? And I just remember on the inside just getting this peace and knowing that even though I didn't get to meet our child, I didn't get to meet them, I didn't get to see them, the walking out, everything that we walked out through, all that, and the connection that Lindsay and I made and all that, it made us stronger, pulled us together. And there was a peace in all that. I never audibly heard anything. I never, got a lightning bolt or a sign. I wish I could have gotten one in that moment, but I just didn't. And so, it's from that moment I started learning that, a lot of the answers and a lot of things we're looking for is actually already in us. I know that sounds weird. It kind of sounds new agey, and I don't care if it does. I just know that that's where always my connection with God has always been here. and not so much out here. I see evidence of him out here in the sunrise and the sunset and the stars and all that. I see evidence in the absence in some places. But my connection is always in. So I think sometimes some of the answers that we're looking for is we already got them. They're already there. They're in us, and we just got to walk it out and work it out. And I think part of the reason we feel like we can't have the answers in us is because we don't think we're good. We don't think we're worth it. We don't think we're worthy. We don't. Yeah, we don't think that we're good enough. We don't think that we could figure it out, or, And here's the bottom line. If I believe what Scripture says, in the very first moment when humanity comes in contact with its Creator, the Creator looks at his creation and says, it's good. The first thing that God ever says to a human being is, it's good. You are good. And now you go and you garden what's in front of you. You go take care of it. You go create. You go do what I did. I spoke everything into existence. Now you use your words to create. And know this, your words can either create heaven or they can create hell.
Yeah, well, that's a good point too, right? I honestly think it's crazy. I don't think people realize how much power they've been given.
Yeah.
Because to take someone else's own life and to take them off this plane or planet or part of existence that we know of is crazy to me that right. Another person has that power.
Yeah. And when you think about it too, is some of the choices that people make are based on things that they've been put into and things that have been spoken over them. Like we're talking about words being able to create hell or heaven. Well, some people have grown up in atmospheres where all they've been given is hell. That's all they've been spoken over. That's all that's been said to them in situations and circumstances and different things. And then they just constantly create that for themselves. And then they make choices out of that. And so they have the power of that to do that. And so a lot of the things that we see, we talked about this with Sergeant Vegan, the pandemic that we're in right now, why are we in this pandemic? Well, it's because of how we treat the animals that some of us eat and the mass production of it and how unclean it actually is because there's money behind it and it's all about making that cash. And so you're going to cut corners. And so what happens when you cut corners? Things start crossing over, and something that really didn't hurt humans before because it's mutated over and over and over again. Now it can infect us. And so now we get sick with it. And the entire world has been shut down for almost a year now because of choices that we made in the past. We cut corners. We made bad decisions. We created this hell for us that's been here. That's took how many lives in the United States? I mean, my dad being one of them. So, we created that. We're going to have to come down to this decision of whether we're going to believe science or not when it comes to the climate.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know how people cannot believe.
Right. That's the thing. It's like, what kind of things are we going to create? Are we going to create things that's going to bring life to people? Or are we going to create hell for people by being in love with power and money?
We're really holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
I mean, not necessarily us as people, but most definitely the 1% is.
Right. And the argument that's made all the time is like between the Wright brothers and landing on the moon was like 50 years. I mean, when you think about that, that's insane. In 50 years, we went from a guy going, 20 feet down a beach to landing a dude on the moon. I mean, that's insane. But for some reason, we were at a different place in time when people were open and there was hope and people moved forward. Not that there wasn't bad stuff too, but it was advancing and we were open to it. And we just got to get to that spot again. It's like, what are we going to create? And it comes down to the little things too. It's not just big stuff, but it comes down to the little things. Like how are we going to create hope and heaven around us now? Jesus said to pray that thy kingdom come, thy will be done And then he says about heaven on earth as it is in heaven. Okay. Well, what's your concept of heaven? And it all comes down to what your concept of heaven. If you think heaven is you're going to have some mansion and there's streets of gold and you're going to have neighbors and all that, if that's what you think heaven is, I'm sorry. I mean, it makes great Southern gospel songs, but that's not what Scripture talks about heaven. Heaven is another. Really, it's another. If we want to be scientific, it's another dimension. It's another reality away outside of us. It's not way out there somewhere. It's actually here and it's all around us. And the concept of heaven, the real hope of heaven, is peace, joy. It's the gifts of the Spirit. It's the fruit of the Spirit. It's all of that. It's that being here. And Jesus said to pray that would take place. Well, praying is what? Speaking it. It's saying it. It's being it. And so how can we have that here? We have to do it. We have to quit being so negative and cynical and judgmental with other people. And just... Can we give somebody else a break and just let them be human? And how can we help? How can we help one another? How can we see heaven, so to speak, on earth?
Yeah.
And that's the little things. That's the small things.
Won't heaven
be nicer?
Won't heaven be on earth?
I think heaven's just another.
Just a name.
Yeah, I think it's just another reality, another dimension. I think when we move from this existence to the next, it's just another existence. I think it's an existence that's in love because God is love. And so I exist now in another dimension of love. And I know that's going to wig some people out and that's fine. But that's just kind of where I've come to.
I don't think it matters anymore. I think we either lost people by now.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Which doesn't matter. You got to be true to yourself. So it's
right.
We can't care what other people think.
Right. And I think that once again,
go ahead. Sorry. Go
no,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the teachings and all that stuff is once again, it's a way to control people, and that's what I mean. When you look back at some of those things, it's just a way. Well, if this is what you get, if you do these things, then you're more intent to do it if you know that you're going to get a mansion and a street of gold and all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I fell into the whole hell thing when I was a kid. I was like, oh shit, I better go to hell.
Yeah,
I better believe in God.
Right.
But and something else I wanted to say is, if someone came to you 10 years ago or 20 years ago and tried to tell you what we're saying right now. So if you could Bill and Ted yourself, if you went into the past as the 45-year-old Mick and you went to the 25-year-old Mick, and you told yourself these things, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to be patient with people. And I think we kind of live in an age where our patience with people is very thin. And I think social media helps that.
Right.
I don't know if help is the right word, but
right.
harms that. I think that we need to meet people where they're at, and we need to try to understand without giving up our position of what we believe, but still be open-minded to know that maybe what we think now isn't exactly 100% the right way of thinking. And we should be open to listening to others.
Yeah.
Because I know if I went and talked, I would hate myself at 25, my 40-year-old self.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd listen to myself either. I'd be like, whatever, dude, go fly a kite, I don't know.
Right. You asked about what would you do to your 25-year-old self if you could go back in time. I don't know if my 25-year-old self would listen to me, but I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would trade the experiences that got me to where I am now.
Right.
So
that makes total sense, because it made you who you are, and going through those struggles and going through that time and the way that you thought then has made you the person that you are now.
Yeah.
So Mick, thank you for letting me just kind of pick your brain and kind of morph this into this thing I sent you that Libby and I were kind of having questions about. And it really got me to think about God. And I know she had been struggling with it. And I know outside of the podcast, I reached out to you and asked you what you thought about it. And you said you thought it was completely healthy. And if people weren't questioning these things and having these doubts, that they probably weren't in a healthy situation.
Right.
And that really, that was important to me, because it made me realize that I wasn't being crazy, and that I wasn't being weird, and that it was just a normal part of life for, and you said if people are in their 30s and their 40s and they're not starting to think about these things, then you would have worries about that.
Yeah. I'd be more worried if people aren't asking questions and aren't,
Yeah.
It's healthy. It's healthy to ask questions. Like, my kids ask questions all the time, and your teacher told you that there's no dumb questions. Well, that's true. There is no dumb questions. And as annoying as my kids can be sometimes and asking all these questions, it's good for them to ask because they learn. And sometimes they learn on their own by asking questions. So why does that change when we get older? It shouldn't change. We should just continue to ask questions. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's healthy. A good point. That's a good point. So is there anything else that you want to talk about that was on your mind? I know this was kind of more free-formed, besides the stuff that I wrote down, but did you have anything that we didn't really get to that you want to talk about?
No, I'll just say this. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk more about it, they feel free to message me. Now, I'm not.
Do you want them to email Coffee and Hardcore?
They can email Coffee and Hardcore, which is just coffeeandhardcore@gmail.com. I think that's right.
That's right.
Yeah. coffeeandhardcore@gmail.com. You can send the questions there and we can talk. Now, when I say you can ask questions, you're feel free to ask questions, but I'm not getting into any theological debates. I'm not going to do that. I'm 45 and I'm too old for that. You can, if you're already thinking of theology debate, then you've already missed the whole thing that we've talked about, which is where I'm at. And that is love alone is credible. Theology to me is not credible. Bullshit from other denominations and thought processes is not credible. Only love is credible to me. And so I'm not going to have big theological debates, but I will answer questions as best I can and hear your side of things. But I won't do the whole, well, it's got to be right. I'm not going to do that.
On that note, if you love me, let me go to the bathroom. And then we'll go into the next segment.
Need a bathroom break? Whatever you need to do it now.
Thanks for spending some quality. Thanks for spending some time with us on the Coffee and Hardcore podcast, season 2, episode 3. Take a chill pill. We're totally bugging.
Yeah, thanks for hanging with us. And if you haven't done so, listen, share this episode. If you dug it, share it with your friends, send it out there. Follow us on Spotify.
Send it to your grandma.
Yeah, send it. Maybe. No, she can handle it. Grandma can handle it.
We're good Christian boys.
Write a review on iTunes, wherever you listen to us. Help us out. Spread the word. That'd be awesome.
Oh, great. You told people to write a review on iTunes.
I did.
Famous last words. Next day, podcast shut down.
Canceled.
Get out of here. We're done with you for this episode. We'll see you next month.
Yeah.